What? Cyan, this is like a serious stream.
Oh, okay. Nobody understands Japanese. It's okay. Alright, 10, just sing. Go. Ready? Yeah, hello everyone. This is Asahi side.
What?
I just mix up. Hiccups. Hiccups, yes. Hello everyone, this is your favorite hacker Neko Waifu Cyan. Welcome to the stream, and we have
Asahi Lina here. Hello, everyone.
Hello. Why are you like so far away from me? Get closer.
Okay.
Today.
Ow.
Yes. Today we're gonna put our professional tongue.
Try to anyway.
Try to anyway. And talk about really cool stuff. That I've been meaning to talk about it for a very long time. Initially, I want Lina to I want to interview Lina, but she's very mysterious, so she's going to be a host in my channel interviewing me. But I am going to try my best to investigate in her past and let her share her hacker past. So let's actually give like a professional introduction for both of us, because we have never actually done that, have we? It's always like, yay, anime girl VTubers, we are airbrain, and we just happen to make just happen to code and new works, but we definitely have a professional side. Somehow.
Yes, Cyan definitely has a professional side, I promise.
Really? Oh, that's not sarcastic. Anyways, so who are you, Lina? Show yourself.
I don't know who am I. I'm just a random girl that makes GPU drivers.
Okay.
No, I'm a Linux developer VTuber. I work on GPU drivers for the Asahi Linux project, and sometimes do random open source contributions to random things.
Random
things. And then I also like to play and make music in my spare time. That's it.
You know what my comment is? I just realized, in conferences, whether it's web conference or tech conference, the people with most prestige are always the one with the shortest introduction and put the emphasis on like hobbies to make people not scared of him. I think this is one of that kind of situation.
I don't know.
My introduction is double your size because I'm insecure. I'm like a serious junior dev that used ChatGPT to polish my introduction, which just try to stuff as much as possible in that one-page resume, So, hi, I'm Cyan. I am a software engineer. This is not my software engineer voice, but I have to be an anime girl here, so I'm really trying. I've worked for Google as engineer, as many of you know. And actually other few big companies that people probably know the name. I'm just not gonna say it. But some big companies, that practice Scrum. And give you a lot of stock. And I actually intern in like some startups, so I have some, like 5 people in the office trying to in the Silicon Valley stuff. I actually had a fun time in there too. So some work experience, I say. Nothing compared to yours.
What? No, I don't have any work experience that I want to talk about.
Okay, yeah, let's not. If you don't want to talk about it, that's okay. I started coding in college after watching an anime called Kagero Project. Jin, like the August. Lots of songs, love it. So I became obsessed with an anime character called Ene. She's a hacker, and I'm like, cool, I want to be like her. So I chose comp science as my major. I have other stories, but that's the main story. I watch anime and decide to be a comp science student. And I got my bachelor's degree, I got my master's degree in comp sci. And most of my experience is in web development, cloud computing, and machine learning. And in 2020, I decided to become a tech VTuber. Yay! We prepared like around 50 questions
ちょっと待って。Fix the mic.
Fixing the mic. for today, I think very insightful questions. To talk about like my journey, how I got started, how I feel as like a minority in coding. I think that's something to talk about,
yeah.
and also what skill you need to succeed in the academy and the industry. And send us Marshmallow. We're gonna answer Marshmallow at the end. It's gonna be quite a long stream, but it's gonna be chill podcast style. Let's greet people.
Yeah,
Are there too many?
As usual. Okay. Hello everyone. Hello Super Mario. Hello Internet Explorer. Hello Yarina. Hello Wolfboy. Hello Hacknia. Hello Dawn. Hello Zaneto Gaming. Hello Tsukistar. Hello Helen. Hello Jesus Carrasco. Hello Mary. Hello Hoshikara Erina. Hello Pikachu. Hello Del Space. Hello Doc Holiday. Hello I think that's Constant.
That's perfect.
That's constant and it's Russian, but I think
I read Russian?
Something. I'm guessing, but some of it is similar.
Cool.
Hello 90. Hello Luca. Hello. Alice Mousy. Hello. Who else we have? Kerrigan Rocks. Hello Zalonix. Hello Dan Hisek. Hello the user XY39. Hello Attacker Binary. Hello Dawn. Hello Sphere. Hello Adam. Hello Doc Holiday. Hello Julian. Hello Fingnan. Hello Ice Cat. Hello Gramoka. Hello what else? Food Blaze. Hello Sphere.
Are there any questions in the chat? Are you reading their chat or just reading their names?
I'm just looking at the names.
Look at your questions.
Hello Sunny. Hello. I think that's most of them.
Also, audio okay? Is the BGM okay? I'm
I think the BGM's kind of low even.
I want it to be low because it's supposed to be like, something you listen to when you're in a car ride or something, right? So it's gonna be our first podcast.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty
does this
cool.
count as a podcast, I guess?
I think so. Like two mic in front of us. React versus Wall. Have you ever used them?
I know nothing about modern JavaScript frameworks.
I think I use both of them in personal projects. And both are good industrial standard. So it depends on your preference. I don't know too much about front end, although I like kind of into UX stuff. BGM is a little. I think that's okay. I think our voice matters more. So
that's okay.
Wanna dig into the question? You said you were good at hosting.
I
Just
don't know.
the services?
What? Programmer dad jokes.
Mom jokes.
No, those are specifically called dad jokes. Even if it's a mom saying it, it's a dad joke.
Cyan jokes.
Yes. Let's see. All right, so should we get started then? Yeah. Ready? All right. So, the first question is, tell us about how it all started. You already covered it a little bit, but if you want to expand on that and how you got started with programming and computer science?
I guess. It's a little embarrassing.
Why is it embarrassing?
I don't know. A lot of people have dreams. Oh, I want to make the world a better place, but I'm just like, I want to make anime waifus. Well, that was not the original thought. So, how did it all start? Like, how did I start programming? I think I have some coding experience, quote unquote, in high school and stuff. Java, Scratch, the MIT, baby C.
So before you knew you were going to learn coding, you already had mandatory coding classes.
Not enough. Like it covers anything before OOP. So
still that's pretty good.
I guess
not everywhere do they have that.
That's
days.
true. That some people go to college without any.
Did you know that coding is actually gonna be in the Japanese college entrance exams for the first time?
I heard.
Next one.
In China too.
Upcoming one.
Yes, they're learning really hard algorithm recursion, DFS stuff in high school.
I don't think they do that in Japan, but
they do it in China. Anyways, I think it's good to introduce it early. Going back to the question, let's be professional and not derail. So I graduated high school. Need to pick a major. Originally aiming for petroleum engineering for random reasons. Want to make money and dig oil. And I took a C++ class. Just want to make a comp sci minor because that's what everybody wants. And I start to dreaming code. I'm like, okay, that's God's calling. I have to pick Cyan as my main waifu.
Wait, your main waifu? What?
Yeah. Your major is a waifu.
Huh? Okay. Just Cyan things. Should we answer questions as we go? Or do you
Yeah. Like,
we have a few things. So we have a few questions. How much do you feel like getting your master's helped you?
I have that question later.
You have it later, right? Yeah.
But a simple answer, I didn't have a job visa, so I had to do something. So I took the master, which is a repeat of 1 year undergrad. So to me, it didn't help as much. But if you are in, academy, like if you do research, that would be more helpful.
Something about the con hack games. We should do some kind of like CTFs and stuff at some point.
Yeah.
Let's see. I think that's question-wise. That's pretty much the only thing that was there. What language do they test on? I'm not sure about that actually.
What test? Oh,
I think it was the Japanese thing.
I think the Chinese.
I think it was like a basic. I think in Japan it was like a basic type thing. Like it was more
basic. Like the language basic.
Yeah, like I think it was more conceptual than like actually programming on a computer.
Good. If they do basic, I'll be very disappointed and not have a chance.
I don't think they would actually teach like programming in basic like on the computer, but if they're teaching programming concepts, I think they use basic
That's
as a
nice.
reference.
That's nice.
Yeah, basically pseudocode. I think, but I might be completely wrong. I just have the feeling when I saw it that that's what it was. So let's see. Alright, so mostly covered with the...
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, so why did you end up choosing programming instead of something else? Well, you mentioned petroleum engineering and then you changed your mind, but...
Yeah. I don't feel like oil. Come on, it's a sunset industry.
That's true.
Right? It's hard to see a long future that can benefit my generation. But I just think it's something useful. Like, at the time, I didn't know what major to choose. Programming happens to be the new cool kid that you get 200k salaries per year, stability, and improves that you are smart, kind of. But for me, it's more like I can build things that I want. It's a good skill no matter what I want to do. Didn't know I'm going to become a full-time VTuber. I'm like, I'll force myself to learn this skill and it's going to be useful. One day I found a programming girlfriend, right? So
is that the most important thing you've achieved with programming?
Yes. And a VTuber.
I'm honored.
If anybody doesn't know, we are dating pretty much proposed because our common shared interest in coding and VTubing.
Just watch some of the recent streams and videos. They're really sweet.
Yay. Next question.
Okay, so when did you write your first line of code? That's actually an interesting question. Because it could be anything, right? You said you did stuff in school, so it must have been...
So everybody took a computer class in my elementary school. They taught us to do like the turtle. Do you know? Like you draw graphs with turtle, you ask it to go to different coordinates and stuff. If you count that, that's like 8-year-old or something. But Java would be my first real programming language.
When was that?
That's like high school.
So you were already doing Java in high school.
First year. But I just stopped. I just took a class and stopped. I didn't know where to go, and they didn't give me an option to.
That's still really cool that you got that chance though to try it out in high school.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, like it's it's getting popular these days, to have actual programming as part of the curriculum, even mandatory, but that wasn't really a thing, it still isn't a thing in many places, and it wasn't really a thing a few years before that, so I think it's really cool that you actually got to do that.
I think so too, yeah.
Okay, let's see. What sparked your interest in technology? Like, what, besides the programming dream and whatever...
Hey, those are important. Those are like fate. Yeah. Those are the moment that you fall in love with a girl.
But besides that,
which is quite deceitful because you dream random things it doesn't really mean.
Yeah.
But that's fate. I think the most important thing is the ability to make what I want. Like use something like SAO, right? Like you have like Yuli as your like AI daughter, AI relationships. I'm not like just just being able to make your dream come true. Like it's the number one reason I learned coding, I think.
I think that like especially a few years back, like coding is sort of this big equalizer, right? Because a lot of things if you want to do a lot of things in life, you need money, or you need like some kind of special resources. Like even if you wanna, like learn to play the piano, you actually buy a piano. But pretty much everyone has a computer or an iPad or something where you can code, right? And these days, and I think that's one of the coolest things about coding is that like there are infinite things you can do within that subject, and anyone can get started at home, right? You don't need to spend any money. I think that's sadly changing a little bit because it's like a lot of big companies are spending a lot of money on very expensive things like training AI models and stuff like that, and that's kind of out of reach of the average person.
Yeah, like the resources and stuff.
Yeah.
But you can always buy cloud computing resources.
Yeah, and you can do small scale stuff and that still works. So I think that's the coolest thing about coding is that it just, it's basically free almost.
Works on your machine.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. So, did someone inspire you when you got started with coding, or did you like discover something? What's the story there?
Okay, now you are definitely my inspiration. I'm trying to observe you every day on like what is a proper programmer. But before, when I first started, I was never in the tech circle. I don't know anybody that does it. Okay, there's like one secret crush I have in elementary school. The guy that does like some like information Olympics and stuff. I'm like, yo, that dude looks like a otaku and he's cool. And my dad. I just realized we don't talk too much. I barely see him, but he everybody knows he's smart. He won multiple information Olympic prizes, and he was a lead in his company, a tech lead. Back in the olden days, doing C++ system from scratch. They locked them in hotels for days.
That's kind of ridiculous.
That's really ridiculous.
Like what?
Yeah, like. They're not allowed to go out. They need to deliver the product. He was always busy, but he's smart and funny and open-minded sometimes. I want, like, even though like he didn't teach me anything, I just feel closure. Like if I get to know his field. Anything else? I think I always have a tendency to do like cool stuff. I don't know why. I always have like this more boyish side. Like I like whatever I see guys do. Like their coat, their jeans, their shoes, their skateboard and electric guitar. I just pick them up. I'm like, I want to be cute and cool too. So coding, wow, so many cool guys do it. I can't do it too.
Define gender stereotypes.
Or becoming them. I don't know.
Let's see. Where are we? So, what were your expectations when you got started into programming? What did you think was gonna happen? What did you think you were gonna learn? What you were gonna do?
Oh, when I first got into programming, like taking my first C++ class.
Yeah.
That put me high on drugs.
What? How does that even work?
Like, my brain just beep.
It was that interesting?
I think it was quite magical to see you execute something, and the computer just gives you the output. Like even the Hello World. Come on, every kid that have their first program running saying Hello World, that was a defining moment.
It is really cool, right? When you see it like do what you asked it to do for the first time. Yeah.
And like something simple like math, like floor sailing and making a calculator. That's actually one of the ones. Making your first tiny bit game, like I think I did a Pong game playing ping pong.
Yeah.
Pong game. The snake thing.
Oh yeah, that one's a classic.
Like at those stages, I was like, oh, I'm like the GM of this world. I'm like every GM.
No, that makes sense though, right? Because it's like
The adrenaline.
when you program, sometimes it feels a little like you're like a god above the computer, right? Which makes sense because humans made computers, right? So that's how it's supposed to be. But it's not supposed to be something mystical, but it does kind of feel like that, right?
That was the first impression, and I expected it to stay this way until I have to collaborate with people that are worse than me or better than me. Most of the time, better than me. You go to the CS major, and the first 3 class, half of the class drop out, and you feel smart.
Right.
And then the next year, the massacre finished, and you are left with the brightest mind of that grade, or the seniors that didn't make it already took the class before, and you start to struggle. You start to feel the pressure of the genius. And the content goes like from like 1 + 1 = 2 to something like A-star algorithm, and to something like complexity and parallel programming and assembly, and they just start to cry.
I don't even know algorithms.
To some people, it's not so useful.
I mean, I don't know.
I'm sorry. I had a lot of trauma in school. Had to dump it. What was the question?
Hey, what were our expectations? So yeah, I guess it was a little, daunting after you guys like once you got past the first.
Yeah.
First part.
Yeah. But you push through. Like, if you really want to make something, and if you want a degree and money, you have to. So how is it for you?
The thing is, I got started with coding not in school, right? So no one had any expectations of me. So for me, it was more like I studied, but like when I studied, I already was interested myself, right? So I was usually a little bit ahead of what I was studying. But also stuff like algorithms, like I did study some of that, and it was just like, okay, grind for the exam and whatever. It was more like a self-paced, discovery thing for me. So that was really cool because it was. It wasn't really stressful. So like, oh, I can do this cool thing now. Oh, I can do this other cool thing now. Oh, I can do this, and this is cool, right? Yeah. I think it's, a lot more, like, yes, I see. if you get interested in coding, ahead of, what they teach you in school, because I think school is maybe not very good at getting people in the right mindset, sort of in general, like with almost every topic, like the way we teach things, like it works for some people, it doesn't work for everyone, and because it's always teaching in big classes usually, right? And so then people can be like, lost or left behind, and the only real way to counter that is to, for those people to learn a different way. So this applies to everything, not just coding, but it's always, a lot more gentle if you can learn it by yourself.
Yeah, I think most of the college work is actually self-study. Like, reading the material beforehand and then reviewing it. Like, you for something, you have to study like 3 times to actually get everything. And like, coming from a past straight A student, I have a confidence that if I put work, I can study anything. But the most important thing is that you self-study before taking the lecture. Like, do 1 year ahead or 2 years ahead or more, you're gonna be number 1 in the class. That's the ultimate secret.
Yeah. I actually have an anecdote there. Someone mentioned, I think math is so interesting, but every math class is excruciating. Like, I have a story with math classes.
Yeah.
Because I actually liked math, like, in school and all the way through high school. Because I could understand it, right? Like high school math made sense to me. And I could solve the problems, and I'm terrible at memorizing, but I didn't really have to memorize math in high school because I just remembered, I understood the concepts, right? I didn't remember the concepts. I understood the concepts, so I could just
do it. For you. Yeah, and you can just like apply one principle to many examples.
Yeah. And then it all fell apart when I got to college and I started learning calculus, because I realized that even though I understood the concepts of calculus and I could understand like what was going on, they expected us to memorize a ton of identities.
Oh god, yes. Wait, they didn't give you the sheets for formulas? You have to remember all the DX stuff?
You have to remember all the trig identities and stuff. And it was just like, that was the point where I'm like, I understand the concepts they're teaching me, but they are expecting me to grind a ton of stuff for the exam, because I can't, even if I were able to derive some of those identities, and some of them I kind of could, you can't do it fast enough for the exam, right? So like, that was the point where it like all fell apart for me, because it's like, no,
it's a memorization game.
Yeah, it's a memorization game, and I really don't like that.
Yeah, but now I heard nowadays schools are providing the formula sheets.
Yeah, and I always liked in general when I studied like open book exams so much more, or where they at least let you write a cheat card. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I feel like then it's like I am actually learning the material. I'm not just memorizing some numbers, right?
You know, my C++ teacher, he didn't really teach a lot of stuff, but one thing he said really stuck with me for like forever. He said, learning is not about remembering every single thing you see. Learning is about when you have a question, you know where to find the answer. You don't need to know what exactly the answer is. As long as, you know, if this I can Google, I Google. If this is in page 79, I go there. I just need the index. I don't really need to make myself memorize everything. That's not the point.
And actually, like having the skill to look things up is actually more important. Like a lot of people say I'm good at Googling, and it's like, yeah, that's actually one of the most important skills. Like people think, you know, if you're Googling everything, you're not really programming, but like you're supposed to Google for the reference information. If you're Googling for solutions to your problem that is a specific problem, then you're probably not going to find them. But if you're Googling for, you know, APIs, for how to do something with some library, or for standard algorithms, right? Like how do you do a binary search? You don't have to memorize how to do a binary search. You can just look it up, right?
Yeah.
Things like that, yeah.
Like when you study, do you study by yourself, like systematically, chapter by chapter, or you just figure out, hey, I think I need this knowledge, and just Wikipedia it?
Yeah, no, it's always like that. It's like I'm trying to do something, and I need to figure out what to learn to make it work. And sometimes I do like read things for fun.
You do.
Like I will read Wikipedia pages for fun.
Yes.
Even if I have nothing to do with what is being.
Hey, that's a common trait of good programmer.
I guess.
They don't wear glasses. B, they read Wikipedia. C, they have home lab. That if a programmer has that three things, you could marry them. They are good marriage candidates. Happy to be alive. What was the question?
Yeah, I got lost too. Yeah, ADHD. Okay, so we were at
We covered something really cool that nobody talks about.
Yes. And we got really sidetracked. So, did you face any doubts or challenges early on? Like, did you think maybe I'm choosing the wrong path or something like that?
Oh god, all the time. Ever after like the introduction to C++, everything I took, especially that freaking, what was the name? Discrete math. I hate. Okay, I love it, but I have a lot of hate relationship with it. My professor was really mean. Like, I could get a 40 on an exam and still be the top 5 in the class.
Wow.
Like, he puts really mean questions on the exam, and everybody was crying. Everybody was dropping out. I was questioning my life. I said I shouldn't have took a sophomore class as a freshman. But all the sophomores are doing worse than me. But it was fun the way he loves the subject. Like when he proves by induction and all the logic up on there. I'm like, wow, this is so beautiful. So a lot of tears and laughter for that class. Like initially, it's like me, I'm helping other people, and after the first year, it's like I'm so lost. I don't even know what to ask for TA. I wish ChatGPT exists back then. That would solve a lot of my problems. I just feel like some classes are difficult and useless.
Yeah, I think it's like it kind of depends on how you teach it, right? Because the way you get people interested is if you teach the interesting applications for something, right? And then you make something cool with it. But if you're just teaching concepts and not saying what they're used for and what you do with them, then what's the point, right?
Yeah. And also the feeling of like isolation. I couldn't really make friends because I tried to rush my studies. I finished my undergrad in just 2.5 years because I really want to, save some tuition and stuff. So I had to study with all the seniors or the juniors that I didn't build a relationship since day one of college. And being like a girl, sometimes the only girl looking person in the classroom. Don't know who to sit with. I feel isolation, and as an international student, I actually had some high school friends that were really nice, but they were doing legal question together. I just feel alone a lot of the time, and I think that's the biggest obstacle.
Yeah, and we'll get to that, but that also probably has to do with like the gender thing and all that. Yeah. It's also, I think the other thing is that a lot of people that get into coding are the people who, like me, got started before school, right? And then depending on the kind of person it is, you might have trouble making friends with.
But I made a few friends with, like, the ones that started calling earlier the genius people, and like we secretly called them the ham, because when we don't know the question to a problem, we just message them and get some ham from them.
That's amazing.
It's basically, it actually means the tie, but it has that meaning. Like carriers. I think like after a year or two, I made some friends. Mostly through teaching other people. I'm shy to make friends with all those Google internship people. I feel I'm never good enough. No, I never knew I would get into Google like this quickly. But anyways, it all resolved after I graduated, I think, and land a job. Then I start to face a different set of problems. Oh, no. But life is like this.
Yeah. And I think someone missed that she did finish her undergrad in 2.5 years. I think you should be proud of that.
I guess. It sounds like I'm just like, be bratty?
No.
Bragging.
Bragging? No.
I don't want to sound bragging. And I also think I should have spent the 4 years.
Still, being able to do that is actually really impressive.
In the cost of my mental health, but I think it's cool. I guess.
Aww.
I'm cool.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I did AP.
We were going to talk about that too. Did you take any formal education in programming at the beginning, or did you learn some things on your own first?
I admire people who are self-taught. Like the self-taught people always question, like, I don't have a degree. How am I going to be as good? They're actually better than most people I know with formal education. The ones with their own drive to finish systematic studies themselves or just discover a field themselves are actually the best coders, I think. I think formal education is a good start for normal people to get into programming and tech field. It's never a requirement. It might be easier it's probably easier for job finding, but it's not a requirement, especially for for companies like Google. They hire high schoolers. It's the skill that matters. So I just follow the formal education route. So I do have a general knowledge of every field a little bit. I appreciate that, but
have you ever done self-study, like things you weren't required to do for class?
Let me think. Like there are projects, right? There are classes that is like you can use any tool you want. So researching that, or writing an AI bot, and even like at work, required to learn like Gen AI stuff. Interest topic, but I still prefer video lectures. Coursera. Or like MIT classes. I don't know how to study without a prepare the lecture. But some people can, like you.
That's the thing about study styles, right? Like some people learn best through lectures, some people learn best through just like self-experimentation. Like usually for me, if it's computer science, like videos are like too slow. Because I can just read some documentation, or if it's prose, if it's like a tutorial, like if I'm learning a new language, sometimes I will read a tutorial, right? Because it's how you learn the concepts in an order that makes sense to figure out the language, because other people already did it for you. But for example, for topics that are not computer science, I love watching videos. Like I love watching videos about biology, about math, not so much lectures, but sort of content creators.
Scishow.
What?
Scishow.
Yes, it's like that. Or like what's that? 4 blue, 5 brown.
5 minutes of physics.
That too, 5 minute physics, but 4 blue, 5 brown, or whatever it was. That I keep forgetting the numbers, but
the 3 blue, 1 brown.
I forgot the numbers.
But those videos are
yes, they're so
awesome.
good.
I want to make videos like that too.
Yeah, and often they're very like computer sciencey, and because it's like discrete math type stuff, but like it makes sense. Like you start thinking of an algorithm, right? And they do algorithms, but it's stuff that I haven't seen in college, right? So it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, 3 blue, 1 brown. That's what it was. Sorry. Yeah, like stuff like that, and especially if it's well produced, because it's like at the same time as I am learning, I am like appreciating the production values. There was another one. What's her name? Like there's this girl that does like 3D graphics.
Oh, I have no idea.
I think it's Freya something. Freya Holmer or something like that. Yeah, and she has like a video on like splines, and it's just amazing. It's like mind blowing, the graphics.
We need to make videos like that.
We should, but it takes a lot of work. That took like a year to make, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, back to the.
How are you doing with time?
Probably we're like 40 minutes.
That's okay.
And we're at question number 8.
Oh God. You can skip to some if you don't feel like.
Yeah. I think we already kind of answered some of these anyway.
Yeah, I think we answered
like why to choose. Yeah. Do you need a code? Okay, so do you need a coding degree to be a programmer? I think we both answer that.
Yeah, no, that's a big no. Like, like people tend to think they need it, but no.
I think in general, like, a degree opens up sort of doors that are locked for no reason, right? Like it's useful when you have some kind of bureaucracy you have to get through to get somewhere. But here's the funny thing: the only thing my degree has ever been useful for, I do have a degree, was moving to Japan.
That's true.
Because they ask, they do actually ask for that. But yeah. So no, if you just want to work in computer science, you don't need a degree. Some jobs will ask for a degree and then not actually care if you have a degree. It might help with like some recruiting filters. It really depends on what industry you're trying to get into. Like inside, technology.
But if you don't have a degree, your portfolio, like your projects, are way more important.
Yes.
You have to have something that can prove that you're as good. That's it. Hello.
Hello. Hey. Hello. Oh, okay. I need to start showing. So what? This is important actually. So before you learn coding, what should you learn?
Oh God.
What are the prerequisites for learning coding?
I don't want to scare people. Like, you have to be good at math and coding. No, that's
that's
such
true.
a myth.
No.
Like, it doesn't even make logical connection to me, like math and coding, unless you're doing like applied math stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it's like an elementary school student can write a Python web page without any math, besides numbers.
I'm gonna say something funny, but I think it's more important to be good at cooking than good at math. Because recipes are all about following instructions in order. And that's what a computer does.
Yes, I heard that from somewhere. So, but I'm only good at cooking. Can you tell me how do I cook my coding?
Oh, you're actually really good at cooking.
I am, I guess. Thank you.
No, but seriously, you don't need like it's one thing to talk about like formal prerequisites for like college courses and programming, but then you will go through the math classes anyway. But for programming, you do not need more than like middle school math. Like algebra, basically. If you can do algebra, you can program. There are some parts of coding that you might need higher level math for, but for the most part, it's really just that. Of course, if you're doing like scientific programming and then you have to solve mathematical problems. Yeah, if you have to actually do maths as part of the programs you're writing, of course you need to know higher level math. But like I've never used calculus.
Oh gosh.
In my programming.
Like, why do people need to learn calculus for comp sci? It doesn't make sense. Have never ever used calculus for comp sci. I like appreciate those concepts, but like
I've used it when I was programming something that needed to do math that then I had to solve with calculus. But then the programming part has nothing to do with that, right? It's like you solve the problem and then you program it.
You use packages. You don't dig into details of how to
and
solve
also,
it.
if it's just random things I need to do once, I just ask Wolfram Alpha.
But there's something that's really important. Probabilities, statistics, machine learning. Machine learning.
If you're doing machine learning, then you need discrete math and linear algebra.
Linear algebra, but oh my god, like statistics is so important. It's like the backbone of a lot of theories because it's
that's a lot. It's very specific to like what field, right? Like if you're doing machine learning or if you're doing data analysis with programming, then of course you're going to need statistics, right? And if you're doing, for example, game development and you're doing 3D rendering, then you need to know linear algebra. It's all based on that.
Yeah. Not saying math is not important. Math is very important. We both actually enjoy math. It just intimidates me a little bit. I just hate when people say I'm bad at math, so I should not program because it's not a firm prerequisite, but it's a good to have, and you should study math well. It's going to help you in many ways.
Since you need calculus for big O notation, you don't need calculus for big O notation. Big O notation is really easy. That's not calculus.
I just remember linear and exponential.
Yeah, but like it's just being able to
like deducing it maybe, but
it's just a logic thing. I've never used calculus with big O notation. It's just about counting like for loops and things like that, and like it's basically just like something to some certain power or log something or exponential, right? It's like you just have a few patterns.
I think I do remember using calculus to get those numbers, but like in practical sense, you just need to remember that like some sorts are log something, some tree is I forgot.
It's more of an intuitive sense for like, is this program going to run like a loop within a loop n number of times, and then you sort of come up with it that way. But I don't remember ever using calculus to talk about complexity in programming.
Still good to have, like
sure.
You feel insecure if you don't know it, and people ask for it. Good skill to have, but nothing to really, put a lot of struggle in practicing.
All right. Let's see. Did you have any mentors? Did you have any peers? Any people that you looked up to that like helped you out?
I wish. I think a lot of people have that, especially in like Discord and communities.
These days, yeah, online, right?
Online.
Yeah.
They have like a group, and then you have a question, you just throw it in there, and people start to help you. I really didn't. I didn't have much of that. I just remember maybe talking to some senpai and cook them some food for exchange of a homework question.
So cute.
They're nice. Most people are nice. Most people. I think one thing about the tech community is everybody is open to share their things. The TAs, like the teacher assistant office hours, some of them are helpful. Looking back, I wish I reached out more. I should be more, confident and make more friends, and especially like find a community online. I think that would help me a lot. And like right now, I think I'm mentoring people, right? You have seen me like reviewing resumes or giving suggestions, whether it's coding or VTubing, and you're also mentoring people. When people, just random people come message you, if they have a thoughtful question, we help them.
And that's what we're trying to do with Tokyo Hacker Girls, right?
Yeah.
So for those who don't know, we are starting a new YouTube channel and community called Tokyo Hacker Girls. So we don't have any content on YouTube yet, but we're working on that. But we do have a Discord, and yeah, that there are many communities like that, but this is ours, and we're going to be focusing on all kinds of different things. But
yeah, and like our Discord, just treat it as like a Stack Overflow. Yeah, just if you have question, post on there. Like it's interesting to look at, and especially like. Right now, we have some experience looking at, more beginner questions. It's actually an exercise for us, and we feel good to help people. So we want our community to be somewhere people grow at all levels. So, yeah, let's do this together.
Okay. Just me taking the chat. With how oversaturated the CS market is right now, should I be worried about getting a job?
It's a very personal question.
Yeah.
In general, I know like my friends would be stuck in position they don't really want to be, but they don't have better opportunity outside. It's kind of a global phenomenon.
Yeah, there's a lot of it's like the bubble is bursting a little, and all these big companies that said they would never do layoffs are doing layoffs and stuff like that.
Yeah, when the first layoff in Google, everybody was surprised. It was the first layoff in Google, and everybody was scared. So I don't like what's going on right now, but people, but still try. People are getting OAs. People are getting offers. Look at what you need, because for some people they need a stable income, and for some people they need a good mental. The stable place to work at, even if it's not a tech job. I think people focus too much, like programmers, focus too much on getting a software engineer job in their field. There are actually many positions you can try out that's really deep in tech, but doesn't really require certain things. Like some tech position doesn't even require lots of coding. Some tech positions are like consultants. Some tech positions are writers. There are a lot of UI UX design. There are a lot of ways, so don't just broaden your options.
I think one of the important things is to try to find what is your passion within the field. So it's not just computer science. For example, I work mostly with open source stuff, and I know several people who have gotten jobs working for companies that are related to open source by having contributions related to projects. But there's also things like if you're into something more specific, if you have a portfolio, if you have personal projects in some ideally niche, but doesn't have to be a niche related to computer science, then that's going to make it much easier for you to get your way into those companies and stand out versus someone who just finished the degree but doesn't actually have anything focusing on something like that.
I would say that's actually pretty rare. It happens, especially around you. The most bright people in the industry, but just coming from my standpoint, some straight student, and around me are CMU graduates. I don't think a lot of them contribute to open source that much. I in my circle, I rarely meet people contribute to open source. So it's possible. But you have to be really good. You need to know what you're doing.
Okay, next question. Well, Gavin, you already talked about this, I think, right? Mentioned the pension sphere. So what kind of help did you get, communities and that stuff? Let's see. What was your biggest aha moment when you started coding? Did you have a revelation, something like that?
I that was Hello World, and I left the question because I don't really have a good answer. I think you do. So I left the question for you.
I think for me, it was like, it's less coding and more getting into low-level development. Because when you start programming against hardware, that's when you sort of realize that, like, you know, all this, if you just code at a high level with a high-level language, you know, and APIs and everything, it's like everything under that is a black box, right? And you have no idea what's in that black box. But when you start doing like systems programming and kernels and things like that, it's when you realize, like, wait, all this has an explanation, and I can actually understand what's going on from the high level to the, like, you know, values in memory, or even to like transistors in the CPU. Like, I don't actually understand the entire stack, but like, I have a concept, right, of like, these are the layers, and then it's no longer a black box. Then it's just a bunch of things working together. It makes sense, yeah. And I think that was my big aha moment is when like hardware and software kind of come together and make sense.
You should teach me a little Aristotle.
I want to.
I want to make sense of computers and not get scared of them. But I remembered my aha moment. I was always struggling to discover like which field of comp sci I'm most comfortable with, and I think when I first discovered like web dev, you know, writing backend API, connecting to database, and I was actually using a new language, Ruby on Rails, like Ruby stuff. Like I never done this before, but somehow it just clicks. Like I like thinking like web design, cloud service, how they connect to each other. Took me a while to realize I like you okay? Come here. I like working on designing backend and integrating with cloud. So I have a lot of joy doing projects like that.
That's really cool. Did you ever feel like giving up?
It's on the back of my head.
How often? Were you scared?
I don't think scared. I'm often scared. But I just keep hanging in there, you know.
You're very stubborn, I know that.
Really?
And you're very good at, like, you know, hanging on to things.
Sometimes too much. Switching one job to another and finally figure out like the kind of job I like. I don't like giving up. But if I have better option, I would consider the better option. I don't call it giving up. I call it optimization.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's a big one that I think we're gonna have some discussion about. How is it navigating all of this as a woman and, you know, LGBT?
Oh God. I don't know what's like an official good answer for this. I can only speak from my experience. It's a sensitive topic.
That's the point. That is the point, indeed.
Oh my God. And coming from like an international Asian student and Asian, you know, like software engineer, it's a little challenging to meet someone that's like me. But the higher you go on the ladder, the more like-minded people you can meet. Initially, it's like shocking, like, oh God, everybody's different than me. Where do I fit in? How can I make friends? Did he have a crush on me? Do I have a crush on her?
Oh, that's like...
It's kind of
Did
strange.
that happen? Did you get like people that you thought were like trying to help you because they're like had a crush on you or something like that?
Am I allowed to say that? I don't think I'm allowed to tell details about it.
I mean,
it's something that you have to keep in mind. Like when people help you, what's their motivation? And yeah, but I appreciate like help that's, you know, in the form of I just want to help you, or like I help a lot of like other people regardless of gender, like LGBT queer. I don't even have, like, I am in the community, like I identify as LGBT, but I don't know anybody that shows it in school. but
Right.
they have community at work. Like pretty much every company. So all of the sudden, diversity is more important.
I think it's like like there's like companies they use it sort of as marketing, and so they encourage sort of it being more out in the open, and then sometimes that's noble, sometimes it's just advertising, depending on how it's done, and whether they actually support people or not. But that depends on the company and what approach they take to it, right?
I think in my experience, at least Google did a great job. Like they're really they're proud, they're there, and they're being respected, and they make friends. Like they're amazing social events. I really like Google's culture. I think being a minority in tech initially is it could be very scary. But as you grow your skills, you find people that are alike, and especially you go to places where smart people gather. You will see more people like you. You will see more people that you can see yourself being. And I think, especially in Google, like I have a great mentor. She is absolutely amazing. She's encouraging. She personally helped me, and we're good friends. She's really my inspiration, and I shadow her in many meetings, and she would tell me everything that she wants me to know. I did have one mentor. I told her that I have a YouTube channel, and she's like, I want to be someone cool like you, and how about I become your mentor? I'm like, yes. And then it's like she's giving me a lot of little things to correct. And it was a lot of pressure, and I have to chill out. I have to okay, I don't think I get along with. I appreciate the help though.
Oh,
but hey, she's nice. She's nice. Just if you feel lonely hanging there, you will eventually meet people that you like. And because I have the period of not fitting in, I'm willing. I'm really. If I meet someone like me that feels lonely and struggle with something, I will do my best to help them. I like this culture, and I think people who are new to the industry, feeling they're the minorities, they should have confidence in they can find good friends. Especially I think tech is one of the most open community, and people are nice, really nice.
you need to pick your venues, but there are very, very nice places in tech.
Oh, they are bad people.
Yes.
They are really bad people.
But no, most of the people I work with, in Linux graphics and stuff, in particular Linux graphics, is very, it's a very friendly community. I know I have several people in the chat from there.
Hello.
And it's don't be. Some places are not that welcoming, and it's okay to go somewhere else. But you will find welcoming places, and stick with that, because there are all kinds of people in tech, and some minorities are even overrepresented in tech. So,
Not the best thing.
no. I'm actually kind of curious about what the curve was kind of like as you did your your college education.
Like what curve?
Percentage of women.
Oh gosh.
I'm kind of curious about that.
I can't. I don't know the queer community. I can tell.
Yeah, we can skip that.
There are a lot of Asian girls that are pushed to study comp sci for the money, and Asian guys too. They sit on the first row and get OAs and cry at night because they don't like coding. Some of them. Some people, become the club leader, hacker club leader, and just publish papers, and they feel fantastic. But I would say a lot of them, not a lot, some, a lot of them feel the pressure of not being to find someone like them, and some of them are forced into the major for external factors. I have a passion and love for comp science, some is just like it's the best major to get money. I think those people, if they don't find passion, it will be miserable. You said the curve, like yeah, like more people decide to drop out, more people decide many girls decide comps are not for them. I think like I'm partially doing that too. Like I like tech, but I'm still trying to find out like where do I belong in the tech world? Do I need to write code, or I can just be a writer or a content creator? So I think finding a place for yourself is very important, and it's okay. Did I answer the question?
Kinda. So let's see. Now we're getting to a new set of questions.
The growth stage.
Yes. So what was your first big project? Like job or task or whatever in programming?
Okay, I had a few internships, but one of the things that I'm most proud of is the thing I did in like my software engineering final project, which took like 2 months or so. I actually had a big argument with one of the tech lead in the group. We were junior, he was like senior or something, and because like I'm a little slow at the beginning, he wrote like a A4 page letter complaining about me to the professor. What? But besides his stupid libraries, I was the top contributor of the whole 5 people team, okay? And it was a wild ride. But it also like sparked my competitive sense. Like if you're saying I suck, I'm gonna show in your face that I'm freaking amazing. So we all went. It was supposed to be a final project for a class, but we went really deep. Like we basically rewrite Uber. And yeah, it's a right matching app written in Ruby, front and back, and I did both. And then he introduced the Google Authenticator and I don't know, like users registration system, Google Map tracking. It's a pretty complete.
That's pretty complicated. Yeah.
I stay up so many nights because I just keep remembering the A4 page of the complaints. I'm like, I'm not gonna show this guy some colors, and he's probably thinking the same because I also returned him an A4 page paper complaining about him being not fitting to the freaking professor that's Chinese and doesn't like me. We just fight with each other and try to compete on the commits, and it was a really amazing project at the end. Other girls in the group were very scared. But we delivered. And I found a lot of joy doing backend. Connecting things using library. And yeah, it's just a memorable experience. I ended up writing 3 more pages of complaint at the end of the final. Just in case he's gonna shit on me, but everybody ended up getting A's. Yeah, sorry. So what is your first big project or most memorable one that you could share?
I mean,
I get you. That's okay. How about the ones in school? For like algorithm class or like for engineering class?
Project.
Not anything like the flies, camera, phone.
Let's see if I remember any good ones. I remember I was boarding class and wrote a Tetris clone in Python.
I still love that story. It's an amazing story. You just wrote a Tetris in one lecture? Like
Yeah, mostly.
God. Can I see it?
Yeah, it's somewhere.
Oh God. You kept your like school project on your machine.
Oh, like I think it's just called this. Yeah. It might not work though, because this is probably like Python 2 or something.
No way.
Oh no, this is errors. It doesn't. I don't. Oh wait, no, it's called this. It's probably yeah. Okay, so
Python.
Oh, it works. It's Python 2.
Yo, that's actually a complete game. Does it like? Can you clear a row?
Yeah, you can get rows.
Oh my God. I wish I'm as smart as you.
see if I can get a line.
Yo, are you good at Tetris?
I'm okay at Tetris. I'm already losing though. Come on, give me that. There we go.
Come on.
Yeah, I just clear rounds.
Did you draw all the pieces?
What? It's a console. It's text. It's text. It's text about Tetris.
Oh god. Okay, you can stop. You may stop. People are confused.
I should like show it on the screen, but I don't want to.
It's okay. I understand. You're smart. What's the next question?
It's Python 2 though, so this is it's obsolete now. Okay, where are we? So, oh yeah, this is actually really important. How did you handle imposter syndrome? Because everyone gets that.
I have a strong case of that. It's so strong. My manager needed to put me to my Google manager. He's the most amazing manager I've ever had. Like, I can't imagine someone. You actually met him. You met my Google manager.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't say I'm gonna quit for a elope in Japan.
It's really nice.
You said in front of my manager that I'm gonna take care of Cyan. Let her quit Google. He's such an angel. And one day he's like, Cyan, I need to have a one-on-one with you. I'm like, fuck, am I being fired? And he's like, here, this is Google's guide of how to handle imposter syndrome. Read it many times because you need it.
Oh.
Have you ever read that?
What?
Like Googler's guide. I don't know. It might be published. It might be published somewhere. I don't know. Like, oh god. Let me recall what was said in there. Basically, like everybody have a strong case of imposter syndrome in Google. Like mostly everybody, especially because like you come from like a school where some people drop off from comp sci, but you go to Google and you work with the brightest mind of the world, and you're like, why am I even here? Is my life meaningful? Something like that. I still have imposter syndrome.
I think we all do. I think the most important thing to realize is that when you work on a project, most of the time, I think when you're working on a team, everyone is going to be the expert on something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I work with Alyssa on GPU drivers, and I have, like, no idea how the compiler works. And she will go on hour-long diatribes about register allocation to me, and I'm just like, I understand some of these words. But, you know, like, I know how the kernel side works, so, you know, I'm going to stick to that, and I know I'm good at that. And so I think that's sort of what you have to realize, that, like, when you join a team, obviously you're not going to be an expert on anything because you're just started, but eventually there's going to be something you're good at, right? And that you're the best at on your team, you know, not because anyone is like smarter or smarter than anyone else, but just because that's what you are working on. It's like your little piece of the puzzle, right? And I think that's the most important thing is realizing that, like, everyone can make a difference, everyone can contribute, and everyone can become the expert in the little corner of everything. And so then you're all equals, right? You're all working on each other's little things, and people are going to be asking you questions when it's about your stuff.
Yeah, I think that's the right approach to it, and I do have some like personal experience, you know, going into a team as like a junior or intern. Everybody else knows everything. They seem so put together, but then you figure out, you know, you have war rooms, you have, you know, production issues, you have uncles. You just realize, oh, this is like a Tenga.
Yeah.
It's man-made, put together. If you slip apart, it might fall apart. So
Yeah.
you're a beautiful senior that looks so professional and proud. Maybe he doesn't really have all the clues of what he's doing. He's just pretending, you know. Sometimes everybody has that side of, okay, I got this. I'm gonna look very proud, and I'm gonna figure it out later and spend like 10 hours trying to figure out. I just don't show you. You will eventually learn that everybody's human, and everybody have things they're good at. Everybody has things that they suck at. You just decide the thing that you're gonna be good at, and people will grow respect for you, and you will have less imposter syndrome. Just keep improving yourself and know that maybe your seniors suck more when they were at your age or stage. That's a bad way of looking at it, but my way of looking at it, everybody is a pineapple.
Yeah. And there's always little things you can contribute. Like the other day, Alyssa was looking at some like game bugs, like game rendering bugs, and I'm like, oh, okay, so you if you disable this like optimization, it works. And I'm like, have you found the shader that has the problem? And she's like, no. And I'm like, well, try this. And she's like, oh, that makes sense. And I'm like, yeah. You know, we all have our little tricks that we know, and that sometimes they're helpful for people who, you know, you think know what they're doing better than you, but then it turns out your little stupid trick is actually helpful for them. So
I think like as a junior, I'm always assigned like you know, after the first bug fixed ticket, after first easy ticket, I was often assigned in that shitty company a really stupid legend bug that nobody wants to spend time on. And I feel like an idiot spending on it a week. And I decide to ask my senior the next week, and he'll be like, knows less than me. Because you're an expert on that question already, you should spend a week on it, so... It's not that, you know, it's not that difficult. Yeah.
Okay. What was the most significant obstacle that you faced in your career, and how do you get past it?
I think my whole life I'm really used to how school works, how to get good grades. But coding is really far from that. Like getting good grades doesn't mean you're actually good at coding. Sometimes, especially when it's based on concepts, it's like coding is a separate skill that needs practice. And getting A's on school for projects and exams doesn't really teach you how the industry works. So
yeah, that makes sense. I think this happens with all kinds of fields too, not just comp sci. Like in general, the stuff you learn in school somehow always seems to be, you know, like
a little outdated
and maybe more theoretical than practical and all that.
And like every company has a different culture, and it's very regional. The way a Japanese developer develops is different from a Korean developer and a Chinese developer, and their whole set are very different from the Western, you know, developer. There are a lot of Asian developers that never use Git. They have a very different work culture, and every company is different. Like Google doesn't even have Git, right? Google has something.
I think they have a custom thing. They
have a custom thing. Wow, did I just forgot that thing? It has a name, GC something. No,
because they have like a big repo, right? So like it wouldn't scale with existing stuff, so they made their own. I read the story about that.
Yeah, like they have one single repo. So it takes a lot of time to learn the culture of your team. Like how do you do scrums? How do you assign time on the tasks? How do you communicate with people? LGTMs. How many like PRs you want to review every day? What's the pace of a senior? What's the pace of expected of you? How do you communicate problem? I think my biggest obstacle is communicating problems. Communicating what I am struggling with. Because in school, I always have this, okay, cannot cheat, cannot copy from GitHub. I have to deal with my shit even if I cry 3 nights. But at work, it's not like that at all. When you have a problem and you done your research, on the same day, take it to your senior, send a Slack message, and they might just instantly know the answer that because it might not be documented. I feel like my job is to suck it up and figure it out myself, but turns out it's very detrimental to my speed and for the team to know what to document and how to pass down the knowledge. So I think that's the biggest.
Yeah, and I think that's very important to like know the people that you should talk to and actually talk to them about questions. Like when I got started with the like GPU driver stuff, when I got started on the Rust thing, I had a lot of helpful people in the chat teaching me Rust and telling me what to do. But also when I needed to conceptualize how to design the kernel driver and like, you know, like make it work, there's a lot of really subtle stuff. And I actually had meetings. Had meetings, and you remember those? Yes. I had meetings with Linux graphics people, and like took notes, and I had like whole text files of notes, and like, okay, this is how you're supposed to do it, because there's a lot of knowledge that's only in people's heads, so that is only documented in weird places, and it makes a lot more sense to ask. So,
Yeah.
yes,
Especially companies, they don't document. Like some people don't comment their code, and your magic, you have to ask. Asking is a really important skill. Also, also, let me share some tricks, because I was really struggling with it. So the trick is you can't always ask the same person. You have to load balance your questions to different people. That's how you bond with different people, and you know who is good at. And you don't have to senior report to your boss that's saying this junior can't handle their own stuff. You load balance it, and everybody is happy. So that's a trick.
there is this DRM set is terrifying to make sense of. DRM set is like I talked about DRM set in these meetings, right? And it's like you should use it this way in a very high level form, right? And that was fine. It's just all the details are just completely undocumented, and then everything explodes. There's like DRM set has a sort of like this reach here. It has a detailed documentation problem, but the concept though is very simple. And I did talk about that in the meetings, right? And that's okay. But it was more like things like how to handle allocations and fence signaling and issues with memory management and all these details that there's a small handful of people that understand them, and then it makes more sense to ask them. All right.
I have a C++ patch. It's actually C++ because the plus are connected. Because I don't like C++. Okay, C++ is like my first love, and I have a really interesting history with her. Okay.
With Sikusa?
Huh?
With Sikusa?
Are you jealous?
Maybe.
So how important is projects?
Yes.
For
How important is it
applying for
having
job?
projects? I think it depends on what kind of job you're applying to. What's your opinion?
Jobs. I'm talking about big companies. I think internships, meaningful internships, are almost always better than personal projects that are not big in scale. If you have like a 500-star project with lots of people working on it, I think that's great. That's a great thing to have. But internships, like actual work experience, will more likely give you a ticket. And when you have projects, you want to rank them in certain ways and make sure you have the right keyword for the key job. Like you don't want to put your like algorithm or game dev project for like AI company. Algorithm maybe yes, but like game dev, like if it's too different than what you're applying for, rank it lower.
I think that's also a general thing. Like, adjust your resume for every company or every, at least, field of company that you apply to. Because there's probably more things you could talk about than fit in a single page. Or instead of decreasing the font size, just like pick the things more relevant to that particular job and put those front and center. And you can keep a template if you want. Like you keep a couple pages of stuff, and then you just delete things, right, for every job. Something like that. But that's very important.
But I think projects are important. I think they are more important than random papers or other activities. Like, I don't know how you feel. I want you to share. But if I see someone with interesting project, especially personal project, that you follow through for years and work on it somewhat professionally. I have college friend that just made their own programming language when they were a sophomore or something. I think that's super impressive and shows that your dedication and ability to deliver is a big good sign.
I think that part of the issue is that these days, everyone has GitHub repos, right? And just having a GitHub repo doesn't mean anything because you can have a GitHub repo because you did an exercise once. And so, no, but you have some extra stuff. So it's, you can't just count, personal projects. So recruiters don't really know, sort of what is a meaningful personal project and what is just fluff. And so if you have like a personal project that you've like deployed to production, to your own personal, right? If it's a personal thing, but like that you're actually using, right? That serves the purpose and it's working and it's usable. It doesn't have to be anything big, but that it's not just, like a template or something. Then I think that's useful when you're applying probably more to smaller companies that will actually read your resume and have like people with more experience judging it. But it's probably less useful for like larger companies that have HR departments where they're trying to filter people and they don't really know how to judge those things. Then for those, probably internships are more useful, I think, because I think that they probably will consider a bigger signal these days. But that's always changing, right? It depends a lot on what kind of company you're applying for. And yeah, don't be scared to apply to smaller companies and see what you get, because you're more likely to have an actual engineer reviewing your resume at a small company. You have a higher chance at least. Okay,
Nice.
What programming language did you learn first? Well, you mostly mentioned that.
If you say hello world like algebra, that's Java. I actually use Java at work a lot, like Java 8.
Oh no.
I hate Java. But my college first language is actually MATLAB. First CS language is C++, which they're changing to Python now because most beginners.
Yeah, I'm surprised they had to start with C++.
There's a specific reason that I'm not gonna mention.
Okay.
I might have seen the creator of C++ once.
Oh no.
Anyways, why is that? Oh no, that's like cool, something like that. Okay, shut
scary.
up. Wait, why are you gonna say shut up? Yeah, they changed it to Python, which I think is a good choice. Like
yeah.
a good
I think
first
Python
language.
is a very good first language.
It's my favorite language still. People judge me for liking Python, but I like Python. What's your favorite language, Rust?
My favorite? No, Python probably.
Oh, okay.
I mean, Rust is my Rust is the language I'm most excited about.
Like a mistress.
What?
I'm sorry, I'm just joking.
I think Rust is solving a lot of problems that need to be solved, and so I think it's really cool and really interesting for that. But if you ask me what I do random programs in, it's Python. Like not kernel coding.
Sublime.
Come on, my prototype TPU drivers are in Python. You know that, right?
And yeah,
So,
I love Python.
no, Python is a really good first language. It's a really good prototyping language. It's a really good language for, I would say, backend coding, for any kind of scripting, for like data processing, also for analytics and statistics and things like that.
It does everything
Yeah.
well. Not optimized, but
Yeah, the only thing is that it's slow, but
Yeah.
like not a lot of programming doesn't have to be fast and doesn't have to be like and even then Python is actually pretty good for number crunching as long as you are using like NumPy or a library that is optimized behind the scenes,
like
right?
AI machine learning.
Yeah.
Can I say something?
What? Yeah.
I actually hate brackets, and I love the Python indentation. Are people gonna fight me in the chat? I like columns. I don't like semi-columns. Python is the most perfect language, beautiful ever.
It was really clean syntax-wise compared to like C family language.
It's like my interview to go language because even if you don't know Python, it's basically like pseudocode. I have the opposite. I'm so sorry. People are gonna hate me so much.
Oh,
But I didn't learn Python in college. I learned it myself.
That's really surprising. I would have expected college to be teaching
They
Python.
didn't teach me Python. I learned it myself. They teach me Haskell first. Haskell.
I don't even know Haskell. Haskell scares me.
They will ask us to write like a symbol or like interrupter. I don't.
What?
They ask us to write weird recursion, like parser in Haskell, and I had to drop it. I learned so many weird language in like school, like MATLAB, LabVIEW.
I mean, MATLAB, I understand
Like
coming
engineering.
from those fields, and same with LabVIEW, like
Ruby on Rails, Haskell.
Ruby's okay. I prefer Python, but Ruby's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, like as an introductory programming language in terms of computer science.
And nobody teach me like JavaScript. Like they didn't teach Python or JavaScript, which is like the most useful wanna get a job language ever. It's weird. I don't understand how college works.
I guess an interesting one. How do you figure out what you're gonna learn next? Like what is interesting to you? What is useful?
I ask Chat. Hey, they have good answers.
Sometimes.
But like, you have an idea and you just Google search like similar ideas, what they use, what language is good for what, right? And you ask your group mates, my community, hey, I want to write this. What's the best language? What's the best spec for the machine? And they just tell you. How do you decide that?
I learn whatever I need to learn to do whatever I'm trying to do.
How do you know that's the best tool?
Just generally research, I guess.
I think the most efficient is still to ask the experts. If your time,
If you don't have a good idea of what makes sense, yes. Like the reason I ended up writing the GPU driver in Rust was because I knew C was going to be bad at that. Like I didn't really know Rust, but I knew C, right? So I knew C was going to be bad at that. And I had some like contact with Rust. Like it's been in the news. I had technically written some like Hello World level stuff in Rust before. And so it sounded like a good idea. And I talked to some people and I said, okay, is this something that would be possible? And people started saying, yeah, that sounds like it's doable. Like it will help what you're trying to do. And then I had a couple of streams where I was actually just prototyping, not any GPU thing, just the concept, right? Like the idea I had of how to use Rust to solve a particular problem. And I just read like a prototype, and it worked. Like it compiled. Like I didn't even have. It wasn't a prototype that did anything. It was literally, can I write? Yeah, it was literally like, can I write syntax where the compiler will let me do something and not let me do something else at compile time? And like that was the proof of concept. It's literally, does this program compile? Can I make it not compile if I do something wrong? Can I make it compile if I do something right? Because I wanted to test that Rust would do the compile time checking properly. And then that worked. It was literally just a compile test. And so that's what told me that it was going to be good.
I think if like you're working on something important, it's really good to have an outline of general ideas of the tag or the design and ask multiple people if this is a good design. Like that's going to like this kind of direction is very important.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah, it's always good to ask the experts. There's some chat questions. Are Rust compilers on par with C compilers in terms of efficiency? Sorry. So in terms of like low-level optimization, yes. Because Rust is using the same LLVM backend as Clang, and then so that's all fine. I think the main issue you might run into with Rust is that it's a lot harder to see where data copies are happening in Rust when you write Rust, and compilers don't always optimize everything. So, if you're trying to write like tight, algorithms like data processing, I think it's going to be very similar to C and have all the same caveats, and it can even be faster than C because some optimizations only really work in Rust and don't work in C. But generally, if you look at benchmarks of like C versus Rust, they will be pretty similar. I think where it might be a little bit different is that if you write more complex, high-level code in Rust versus C, you might accidentally make it less efficient in Rust in ways the compiler doesn't optimize, because it's harder to see the cost, right, of what you're doing in Rust. But you can fix it. It's just going to be, the usual like profiling thing where you have to figure out why some of the code you wrote is optimal and then, change some things. So usually it's just about pointers and references. But yeah, as far as low-level stuff, it's pretty much the same.
Yes. I don't understand any button. Thank you. Hey, I have a question before we move on. Where is our donation board?
What happened? Oh! Wait. Oh, right. It just... I'm so sorry.
You sure you're not gonna dox us?
No, I'm not gonna dox us.
Honda?
I don't know why it does that.
That's where our money is from. Hey, the table is...
Oh, the table's on... No, that's just... There.
That's why we're not making money. We don't think about making money.
I don't know why it does that. When I open OBS, it doesn't load the pages properly.
Did we show it last stream? I don't know.
I think we fixed it last stream.
Oh god. Anyways, so we are raising money for our 3D models, and we plan to have a 3D wedding. No kidding, like yes.
We're gonna have 3D wedding.
3D wedding. I'm looking at the 3D artist, so if you would like to show a little token of appreciation, or just support your local tech cat girls, consider give us some chicken dinner money or the model money. We'll be really thankful. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Next question.
All right. Let's see. Oh yeah, about the master's degree. So why did you? Well, I think you already answered that question. That it was like visa related.
No, like it's not really my choice. Like, okay, I'm gonna be really blunt.
But what do you think about it then?
Most people that I see go to a master degrees, number one are like the researchers. I think that's the best path. Like, if you just rush into PhD and if you're not very, devoted to that, that's actually like, I think you will feel rushed and more stressed. So like a master degree is a good transition period to see if you really want to do a deep PhD or not. Because research said people that didn't want to do PhD but have to finish it, the amount of sorrow they carry, according to the paper, is more than losing your parent.
Oh no.
So be really careful if you want to pursue the PhD. But if you love the study and have the passion and would like to experience hardships, the PhD is good. I think they're amazing. Like all the doctors, all the PhDs, they're really cool. They're really cool. They really go through something. The second kind of people are the ones that didn't have a bachelor degree in comp sci and want a professional degree in comp sci. I think this is a great way to transition if you have money. Master is costly and often don't have enough scholarship to cover. But I think a good master degree, if you need to self-study a lot of basic stuff, but it's possible that you just pick it up if you are already in a STEM major. Or I've seen art students and new students just take some online classes and then just directly go to a master's degree. They're starting to mix bachelor class and master class together and teaching some basic concept to smooth it. So it's a good choice to get a professional degree. Another type that already have a comp sci bachelor degree and still decide to go to master student are often the ones that couldn't find a job. I'm sorry. Or they want to study more and they want some time to explore, which is good. I had a visa issue where I couldn't work. The only way for me to stay legally in America is to get another degree. I'm like, okay, another year of comp sci. But it felt like I learned most of the things already. It was a different school, so a lot of things were like, oh, I learned it easy. So I tried to take like 5-6 master course in one semester, and
You're a little crazy, you know that, right?
I was, and somehow finished the program 1-2 semester faster. I think the great part is it does give me a great degree. I don't know if it makes a difference. If you have higher GPA in master school, I think it makes a difference. I don't know. Some courses are interesting. I got into bioinformatics when I was, and now I actually learned
That's pretty cool.
AI ML like all the way from ground, and I did a few course presentations and projects on like specific parts of machine learning that really helped in my career. I needed that extra year to get that knowledge. I also got some teaching experience. I taught high schooler machine learning. They actually did the transfer learning on the the Google Colab. I made them a Google Colab, and they actually did transfer learning themselves. That was my first teaching experience. It was funny, like, because the professor that was supposed to teach the class never appeared, so I just took the role.
Just to cover the professor.
I made all the slides and took the role and helped all the other, TAs, which are sophomores. I taught them first, and then taught all the 17-year-olds. And guess what? They all aced it. They aced like half
That's
professional
cool.
machine learning
That's
course.
really cool.
It was really fun.
That's really cool.
And surprisingly, there are so many girls in that particular session, and they do really well.
That's really cool.
I think like younger generations are incorporating more minority into content class, like encouragement, and they actually do really good, or even better than the average. So I'm really happy to see that.
That's really, really cool. We got some donations. Thank you, Martin. Thank you so much for the
Martin.
super sticker and the super chat. A PhD in optoelectronics. Oh, that sounds cool.
As long as you think it's worth it.
Can you explain how like a 10 gigabit fiber SFP works? Because I have no idea.
What? Oh god, that's such a cool PhD.
Yeah, no,
If I
that's
have
really
money,
cool.
I would try.
That's like, I have no idea how that. Like I've read, Wikipedia articles about some of this stuff. But it's just like, okay, that's like black magic. Like, okay.
So I think for people that have the money and couldn't find a job, it's good to invest in a master degree or even an MBA. I think that would be a useful degree for people who wanna do startups.
Yeah, if you want to run your own company, yeah.
And grow your network and connections. So I might take an MBA someday.
All right, how do you find a community of like-minded people, like-minded programmers?
Huh?
Huh?
I have friends.
Yeah, you have friends now.
Which question is that?
24?
Oh, okay. I met most of my tech friends through VTuber and Telegram. I don't have many real friends, like real world friends. All my net friends are dear to me, more dear to me than real friends, actually.
I get that though. Like, I think it's part of it is that if you are moving around schools and companies and projects, like unless you have someone that you hang out like locally and you make a point to do that all the time, you kind of lose like physical connections, right, with people. But if you have people that you know on the internet, then that is, forever. At least it doesn't affect you if you move or if either.
Yeah. And especially like internet, like it keeps you a good distance, like a good distance to connect anytime, and a good distance to like I don't feel like talking. Stop bothering me. And both
Yeah, that's the other thing, right? If you have like, if you are not on the same sort of point in like introvert versus extrovert with another person, it's a lot easier to make friends online than in person, because if someone sends you a message, you don't have to reply immediately, right? You can reply later if you have time, and when you have, you feel like it. And no one's going to be upset at you unless they're crazy if if you reply a few hours later. But for some people, it's really difficult to like reply in real time and schedule things offline and things like that. So I feel like it's also makes it much easier for people who may be more or less social than each other to collaborate.
Yeah. What are like the apps you use to connect with other programmers?
Oh, I mean, tech people tend to use all kinds of stuff.
Mastodon.
Yeah, but like the
What's number one?
Oh gosh, it just depends so much on the person. Like, there's a lot on Discord these days, which is really interesting, and especially more beginner-friendly stuff tends to be on Discord. But like some of my closer friends, I have on Signal, and then there's Telegram, which you kind of dragged me into.
Sorry, I have so many good friends on Telegram.
Yeah, and then there's Matrix, which a lot of official projects have stuff on. But then Rust has a bunch of things on Zulip, which is really weird, and I don't know why. And that's most of it, but I'm probably forgetting something. Oh, and there's like IRC even, right? And then the exodus from Twitter went to Mastodon for the most part for the tech community. It's really all over the place.
And for like in real, I actually like a lot of my Google coworkers. I still talk to them, and like we do a lot of things together. We walk dogs together and go to restaurants. All my sisters, love them so much. Did I go to KubeCon once? Like one of the cons? Like that's more like you meet some of them online, and then you're like, well, let's go to this event together and meet them in real life. And I think meeting someone in real life after an like internet friendship, it's actually like it really helps you to get to know them more. You know, at once in the relationship, friendship. I think meetups have a lot
meetups
of...
are really important. Like especially if you can get people that have similar interests or like are working on the same things or same kind of things, have some connection to each other, right? And
And dating apps.
Important. What? You find your programming friends that are on dating apps?
Yeah, I asked your major, and if you're comp sci, I would just swipe right, left, like add friend. Can we connect on LinkedIn?
Oh gosh. Wait, are you using LinkedIn as a dating app?
Some people do.
I know, it's weird.
Some international scam happens on LinkedIn, guys. Be really careful. If a Chinese girl or like so. I just said something I shouldn't be saying. Just what? I think I said enough. Zip my mouth. Chinese girls are cute, like me.
All right. Let's see. Can anyone learn coding, or do you need a particular skill set? I think anyone can learn coding, but I think some people might need to develop some skill sets first. Otherwise, you will struggle with coding. What do you think?
I think most people, everybody can code in different degrees in different areas, but I think there are a lot of people will find coding challenging, and they wouldn't enjoy it. Like the way of their thinking isn't exactly like I think one skill for programmers is being able to step by step follow through the code and the program, and if you have trouble executing it in sequence and in the logic of the code, you can't get very far.
That's why I mentioned cooking at the beginning. Like, I'm not kidding. Like that skill of being able to follow instructions, but not just follow the instructions, like understand that you are following instructions and that, there is a sequence of instructions and that you do one at a time. That's the basic, principle of programming. And so if you don't have that, I think what happens is like some people approach coding as like, I'm going to get a program that does this, right? And they see it as a sequence of building blocks, right? They see it as a things you put together and you like memorize the things you have to write to do something. But somehow it doesn't click for them, the idea that this is running one at a time. The computer is literally just going to look at every line of the program in program order, which there are subroutines, but there are also subroutines in cooking, right? Like cooking sometimes requires you to make starting like ingredients or like mixes first, and then you go back and put them together and stuff. So it's actually very similar. If you get that concept, then it will click. If you don't get that concept, then you might actually be able to like get through school and struggle and not like it because it like the underlying thing never clicked.
And I think it might be just me, but I think as a programmer writing program, not a project manager, not a designer, the most important skill is problem identification and problem solving. As the chat has said, like using Google, really important, like knowing what to Google, what's the keyword. And I surprisingly don't find a lot of creativity in writing code. It's more like problem solving and novice. like a rate or like so-called creativity is another angle of looking at the problem, but it's not something in art or music that like you have a crazy idea and you draw it out and you use strong color and let your imagination and intuition drive it. I feel like when I do art and music, like I let my intuition drive it. I let my imagination drive it, and the more wild my thought is, the better the work is. But programming is following a set of rules, and it's like art is you are creating from like a empty canvas, but programming is more like a puzzle that's already been defined, and you're navigating ways to solve it.
I actually disagree a little bit, but I think it's both. I think that like in the moment of programming, like when you're writing a specific piece of code, there's not a lot of creativity that goes into that. Because you are solving a particular problem and then you're writing code that solves that particular problem. I think the creativity comes when designing, and that's basically software engineering, right?
That's right. Yes. I think designing needs a lot of creativity, especially large scale. Like when you work at small companies, you build solution that works. But when you work at companies like Google, you're handling millions, billions of traffic. The building and designing at large scale require you to solve like a problem that nobody has ever done before. Then you have to have that inspiration. You have to have the knowledge base to come up something that has never happened before. So
and that's why these are two different things, right? So you often have software engineering as a class in computer science, and it may or may not be very good at teaching you this kind of concept, but yeah, this is actually very important, right? Like inspiration is actually important when you are sort of deciding how to approach a problem, and it can be coming up with an algorithm if it's something that you can't just Google, or it might just be sort of coming up with how to architect a large piece of code, and the individual details are going to be not very creative task, but the designing the overall, the big picture, getting the big picture in your head and coming up with something that makes sense and that is going to work, that does require a lot of creativity. And I think that's where it fits in. I think a lot of people getting started with coding also probably don't realize this, because you always get started with the really obvious stuff. Like there's no creativity that goes into CS 101, right? Like you're solving very simple problems that have a very simple solution, and you're just learning how programming works.
Like a simple one-way solution. Like there are maximum 3 ways of doing this, but for art, I think to me it's more creative. Anyways, that was an interesting discussion.
Okay, let's see. How do you know if you're the right person to pursue coding as a career? That's a loaded question.
How do I know what? Like, how do you know you're the right person to pursue coding as a career? Right is a big word. Like, it's very subjective to say right. Like, if you are homeless and you learn programming magically, and you want a stable income, even if you don't like coding, maybe you want to be an engineer and earn some money. Like it's a quick way to make lots of money. And to that person, it might be the right way. A lot of engineers I met are the ones just want to get enough money for their retirement and travel the world. Many people start side business in Google and eventually have their hobby business taking over as the main stream of income, or just quit Google like me. But to me, the most important thing is you need to love coding. You need to have passion. You need to know how your code works, have confidence in it, and be proud of it. That's the driving force that's going to make you last long in the industry.
Yeah, I think the most important part is to want to solve problems with programming, right? Like, don't treat it as just a tool. Don't treat it as just it is a tool, but don't treat it as like just a thing you do, right? For a job or for whatever. Like, you need to have the drive to solve problems with programming. And that's how you get most people that get started with coding before going to college. But not everyone. It's plenty of people that end up starting in college, then, have the drive and then work on things. But like, I think if you, I think this goes for everything in life, really. Like, you can learn any job, and then some people only do the job because it makes them money, and that's okay. But I think there tends to be a difference between people that do a job for money and do a job because they actually really like it. And if you can get a job that you like, that's, a really big deal in life.
That's a big deal. That's not that common. A lot of people are just surviving for the money. But the important thing is you have to have something else in your life to balance the chores of doing something you don't particularly enjoy. That's where the burning out, the mental health factor comes in that people don't talk about enough.
One of the good things about coding is that it's broad enough that it's actually possible to have a job and be kind of tired of the job and not really want to work, on the things you do in your job, and still do programming in your own time on something completely different, right? Like a completely different programming language, completely different technology, completely different field, completely different goal, and that can still feel like it's not a job.
I really want to do that, but like for me, I want you to help me with that. Like, if I have a full-time job on something that I don't, particularly good at, I spend all day, all night on it. There are other times that I can't get up. This sucks. I just want to sleep until the stand up at 11 a.m. And then I wake up, like, I have lunch at 2 p.m. And then I'm like, okay, have to work until 3 a.m. And just another dead day. Like,
that's just crazy though. You're not supposed to work more than 8 hours a day.
I think my problem is I'm not like proceeding enough, progressing enough. I think I'm stuck on problems and I'm tired mentally, and tried many ways to solve it, but it just doesn't work. And I try to call senior for help, and they're like, we don't know either. It's just, oh god.
I mean, I think if you're stuck in that kind of thing, it's like either you are trying too hard and you are not actually expected to be putting that much time into it, or or maybe that particular field or thing is not what it really works for you, and you should try something else. Even within coding, right? But like a different, there's a lot of things in programming, right? So something like that, I think.
Yeah,
but I think if you're working, until midnight every day and getting burned out, and you feel like you have to, and like you're expected to, something is wrong. Like that's not supposed to happen.
Like my first company, everybody at 5 p.m. they're just gonna like turn their Slack to offline. But if you ping them middle of the night, like 2 p.m., they will respond to you instantly.
Like that's not even that's not a bad thing if they are not getting a lot of, like if you have a company culture where you aren't bothering people at 2 a.m. normally, right? Being open to replying and being like watching your phone is not necessarily a bad thing. But if it becomes this pattern, right, where it's like you're being interrupted all the time, then yeah.
It's like everybody has this pressure. So like I feel the need to leave the job. I lost my stock and just left. And I went to another company, and then the culture is completely different. The set of responsibilities are different. I'm more in, like, my job is more focused on, coding tools that I actually own the entire thing, and that I am comfortable with doing, and communication with the customers and the system design, like the architect design you mentioned. That's something I really enjoy, like the creativities, understanding different services, how they connect together. I really find comfort, like, and happiness doing that. So I think you're right. Like, finding the field that suits you really adds to your efficiency and your overall happiness.
Yeah. Let's see. What qualities or habits make a person a successful programmer? That's also an interesting question.
What qualities and habits? Don't have glasses.
Come on, lots of programmers have glasses.
The exception was, I know just happens to not have it, and they think glasses look cute on them. No comment. I'm sorry. Successful programmer. I want to say, like, a good programmer should be a person that craves knowledge and open to share. I think that's the best quality I see on the best programmer. Not the most successful programmer. They're just gonna start a startup and dump people in it. So, like patent their secret and make money from people. But I think the thing I appreciate the most is how open.
I think having a thirst for knowledge and wanting to spread that knowledge are two very, very important things. Because it's how you learn things without feeling bad about it, and it's how you share things and then meet other people that are going to, like, reinforce you and be a positive influence. I think if you need to find it interesting, basically, and it doesn't have to be, everything, but you need to have some field, some subject, some stuff that you find interesting, and you are really just want to learn more.
So
I think another one in general is just, like, tinkering and messing with things. Like, that knowledge can be just because you feel like learning things, or it can be because you want to do something. Like wanting to build something by yourself.
The curiosity.
Yeah.
The curiosity of understanding how a black box works, and the curiosity of how to design something from scratch.
Yes.
And the enjoyment of it.
Yeah.
I don't particularly have that.
Like, you kind of do, though.
I'm like, mendokusai. I don't want to know.
No, but
somebody build this for me. $10 here. My time is precious. I have a CEO mindset. I think I'm like I think I'm a, like, capital
in some ways
investor efficiency person than a programmer, but I idolize programmers. What's something you think those things make you a successful programmer, like senior engineer, tech lead? What makes a person tech lead? The quality.
I think if you're talking about tech lead specifically, it's about being able to keep complicated systems in your head.
Huh? What's that?
Like, if you have a lot of complexity involved in the software your team manages, I think the person that's most likely going to end up being the tech lead is the person that keeps it in their head, that, like, sees the big picture and knows the big picture, and, like, it doesn't overwhelm them.
Knows the big picture and know the important details well enough.
And knows who to ask about all the details, right? But, like, can see the interactions between people, right? And the interactions between different parts of the system. I think that's the tech lead quality.
Well, that's something I never thought about. That's something coming from experience. So, by the way, I think you look cute with glasses.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I was being a little mean.
Yeah.
Okay, next question.
Let's see. What do you think about learning coding even if you don't plan to be in the programming industry.
I think that's great. I know a lot of like people in biology, medicine, they excel at building system they want, and it's like not like compared to other skills. I think coding is a very essential skill. They should start teaching in elementary school. Make everybody have the ability of building something.
Yeah, and I think this is especially important for the when I said this, like the introductory part of the coding, right? Like not the software engineering part, just the like being able to write programs to accomplish tasks. Because anyone working with pretty much any kind of computer-based anything can always benefit from some basic programming, and even just things like Excel macros, right? Or Excel scripts. Or making a simple website to do something, or just a Python script to process some data into a different format, or something to solve a particular problem, or even I wrote a Python script to help with my taxes once, right? There's just like 10 lines of doing some math to calculate some stuff. Anything, right? Like anytime you have a task that is repetitive, it's much better to teach the computer to do it, and that's what programming is. And it's a lot less daunting than I want to have a career in computer science, right? Or I want to have a career in software engineering, because if you want to go into like software development as your primary job, then there are going to be more expectations, right? On growth and like being able to tackle really complex problems and things like that. But you don't need that to use programming as a tool in any other discipline. So yeah, I totally encourage everyone to learn at least basic programming so that you know what is possible, how it can help you, and that it can solve problems for you.
Well said. We can skip a few questions. Pick some important ones.
We're like halfway through in 2 hours. Let's see. Well, this one might be interesting for you. Like, how do you stay motivated when tackling complex problems?
If my boss is pushing, I don't want to lose my job. Or I'm building my AI girlfriend, and I want to see my AI girlfriend. Right? Like it has to be something very animal.
I think more in general, it's like seeing results is always motivating, I think. And so if you have a complicated problem, break it down into bits you can like test individually.
Oh yeah, that is so important.
Like even simple things, like if you're writing one thing I often do is if I'm writing a program in Python and it has modules that do different things, is if I'm writing a module, write a test like if main, do something with this module thing. And that can be both a test, even just an ad hoc test, and just proof that part of the code works. And so if you have this feedback that this part of the code works, it's a lot easier to stay motivated than if you try to just write everything and then somehow debug it as a big thing. And yeah, like anytime you do that, that's why I did the prototype GPU driver in Python, right? Because I could iterate very quickly and see more and more things work. And then once I had that in mind, I could come up with a design. And even then, if you look at my streams with the Rust driver, it was like, oh, I can boot up the GPU now, right? It's like, it doesn't do anything, but it boots up. So that's, that's something, right? And just seeing that you get there and you get like the log message saying like it started, that's how you keep going, right? Always try to break things down into pieces, because that's going to help you develop it anyway. Anytime you have something with lots of complexity, you have to break it down to understand it and make sense of it and be able to debug it. So yeah, I think that's a big thing.
Yeah, you actually remind me. Like one thing I learned at Google is so important. I use Notion to keep my notes, which is banned in Google's laptop, but I install it anyway. I just remove the safety check. If they could have fired me, but I want to take my notes. God, did I just spill it? They could just sue me right now.
No, they won't.
Guys, I never worked for Google before.
No, I'm pretty sure they can't sue you for that.
Anyways, but I started to take daily work log. A, it's easy for me to go to the stand-ups and tell what I do. B, I get the assignment of the task and I break it down to like 5 different like executable steps of how to do this. Some tasks are really daunting and takes days or weeks. If you break it down, like your ADHD heart will feel the weight lift out because you can just focus on one thing at a time.
Is this ADHD programmer advice now?
I mean, for everyone, like the way to approach complex problem is just follow the fundamental step of breaking it down. So I think that's really important. Keeping a log, it's great for a performance review. Right now, it's the performance review season. Like, you know what you have done. You can easily write a report.
Yeah, I don't usually do logs for like things I'm experimenting with, but anyone who watched my streams might remember that I did have a log of like, GPU driver to-dos, and it's less relevant now. There's still a few things. But as I was doing the Rust driver, right, it was just this huge list of things that like, this needs to be done, this needs to be done, this needs to be done. And sending all the checkboxes, you can just tick one by one. It's really good for managing all that and seeing the progress.
I feel like I sound a little depressing. It is true. I shouldn't. Okay, if I'm in like interview, I'm not like this. You know that. Like everybody, like I like ace interview very quickly, especially behavior, because I can talk and I sound knowledgeable and I sound confident. But right now, I'm just being a honest novice VTuber. I think some people have my same feeling, and I want to bring it up and be honest and see, like as a more mature programmer, how would you approach it? But hey, I have tips too. I need to work on my imposter syndrome.
You need to work on a lot of things. Your imposter syndrome, your self-esteem.
Pat pat. But I have done a lot of cool things.
Yes.
I'm a cool person. That's a little humble. Don't kiss me on stream. It's supposed to be professional.
Okay. We already talked about this. What's the role of creativity in programming? How important is it to know the fundamentals like data structures and algorithms? That's an interesting question because it depends on what you're doing. Honestly, algorithms don't come up nearly as much as people think. There are some fields, like if you're writing a compiler, there's going to be compiler theory-ish things going on in algorithms. If you are working on particular like data problems, like processing certain kinds of data might need certain algorithms. And when I say algorithms, I mean things like, like a star, whatever, binary tree, and, merge sort. But honestly, for most, programming that is like getting things done, you don't really get to use algorithms that much. It's like when you get to like big data type stuff and those things.
No, like for data science, because like I'm kind of in the field of data science, data analytics. Like, yes, you use some probabilities, yes, you use some libraries, but unless you're a researcher, you don't really like deduce things. You don't.
I know. I mean more like things like if you're writing like a recommendation algorithm, like the YouTube algorithm, right? Like it's called the algorithm. What people call the algorithm is more like the settings for the algorithm. But behind that, there are going to be like, like bulk processing things going on. Like I think Google has MapReduce and that kind of stuff, right? And like you do need to know how to architect that processing in a way that works and scales. But when you are working on like an application that just solves a task, I mean, yes, you need to know why sorting is useful, but you're not going to write the sort function because your programming language is going to come with one that's going to be plenty fast. You need to know what a hash tree is used for, but you don't need to write one because you're, a hash map because your programming language is going to come with one.
But you want to know the words. You want to know the definition. Like for the algorithms, it's you don't need to. Usually,
you need to know what the right tools for each job are, but you almost never have to write your own sort of textbook algorithm for something beyond, basic searches and things like that.
Like you need to know like what algorithm is good at what and what's their big O complexity compared to others, and also like when other people talk about it, like a difference between stack and heap, you want to know that. You like just memorize those somehow.
Yeah, of course.
That if you don't know that, like if you don't know the basics of like what heap is, what a binary tree is, people will be like, they're gonna like question you a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's an important thing to know.
Yeah, but that's more of the like as is data structures. This is the fundamentals of programming, right? And yes, you do need to know the fundamentals of how programs work. That is very important. Like how programs work, and basic data structures. Like you should know what a linked list is to understand how it works and why you want to use a programming language feature that is based on a linked list. Because there are some things that is useful for. But data structures. Well, for example, I see trees and like graphs come up in academia a lot, and you learn them in school, and then most of the time when writing real world programs, you don't actually use that.
I think actually like I think game design use a lot of like tree graphs,
Game
optimization,
game engine development, yes. Game development, no. Like there's gonna be like a tree is a very simple thing fundamentally. So I think once you see the concept of a tree, you're gonna have very ad hoc trees everywhere. Like your file system is a tree, right? Like directories and folders. So you should be aware of that. But anytime you're using a tree like that in code, it's probably going to be very like you're representing something as a tree, but you're not particularly doing any like algorithms that are based on trees that you would. Because like when you learn trees, they tell you about things like red black trees and
oh god, B plus.
Yeah, but that's just like that's more of a data structure for holding sorted things that can efficiently make changes and insert and remove. And your programming language is going to do that for you. If you need a red black tree, it's going to have a red black tree, right? Unless you're writing like Linux kernel and redoing everything. Sorry. You don't need to learn. Or at least you don't need to remember all the details of how all of that works. If you ever need a tree to represent a concept that has to be represented as a tree, that's going to come naturally as a programmer, right? Like if you need to represent like HTML is obviously a tree, right? Because they have tags inside tags inside tags. And if you do something similar to that, it's going to be a tree. But like that's intuitive once you know what a tree is, right? And you don't have to worry about algorithms on a tree. So yeah, I think algorithms are kind of over-represented in academia. Because genuinely, like, I can count on one hand the number of times I've written a binary search. And most of the time your programming language has one, like Python, like Rust does and Python.
But do you know why people put so much emphasis? Technical interviews are all about just
some of them, yes.
code.
Some of them, yes.
Like, like to get into Google as software engineer, you're expected to solve multiple or at least one like hard LeetCode question that requires at least 300 questions of practice. But when you're at your job, you don't LeetCode.
Yeah.
You do a lot of other stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't really like the technical interviews that are not, tied to the job description itself. It's changing. The recent interviews have more domain specific knowledge. But that's more barrier for someone that didn't have a comp science degree. So I don't know.
Yes, someone mentioned the Linux kernel already has a arbitrary implementation. Yes, that's what I meant. So someone wrote that, right? But here's a fun fact: my kernel GPU driver, because we are using Rust in the Linux kernel, we don't have the Rust standard library. The only data structure I use in that entire driver is vec.
What's back?
Like a list, an array.
Oh.
A vector.
Oh.
That is the only data structure I use in the entire driver.
Oh, God.
Because we don't have anything else, and I don't actually need it. There was one place, not in the driver, there was one place where I was writing some deep, subtle debug code for a feature integration between Rust and the Linux kernel. And I needed a hash map. I wrote a very simple one, ad hoc. That's the only place I ever needed anything other than vec. It's not in the GPU driver, it's just in debug code. Other than that, the GPU driver only uses vecs. And yes, it's not the most efficient thing in some places. A linked list would be better for some things. But in practice, it doesn't matter.
I think we're speaking from our experience, like me as a high-level programmer and you as a low-level programmer, which kind of includes I'm just kidding. But there are fields that requires really good algorithm, especially when designing a large scale system. So take it with a grain of salt, I say.
Yeah, no, it definitely depends on what you're doing. That's why I said if you're doing like large scale data processing, like when the big O starts to really matter, then you need to use the right algorithms. Or when you're doing things like Alyssa's doing compiler development, and then she starts talking about how this is a graph coloring problem because you have to do all this stuff. And yes, that's when you start reading papers and figuring this stuff out. But most comp sci is just not like that.
I just realized LeetCode is a lot about designing what's the right algorithm to use. Maybe that's why they want people who are good at LeetCode, because system design.
All right, where are we? Do you need to be good at math to be a programmer? We already covered that. Like, unless you're going into fields where math is part of what you need to solve. Like, there are, as I said, game development is like linear algebra. Data science, you might have some interesting things with statistics. But in general, for programming, basic algebra. That's it. That's really all you need. You will get into discrete math naturally, like not college level discrete math, but like you will intuitively learn some concepts of discrete math as you learn programming, but you don't need to like learn it as its own thing. Let's see.
I think I can merge a few questions together.
Yeah. I think some of these are similar to the ones we already covered.
Yeah. We can just jump to the next session.
Skip these, I guess. I guess this is actually kind of important. It says, how can we create more? Because we're talking about like the LGBTQ stuff, and you already mentioned your experience with that. But I think this last one kind of covers most of it, which is like, how do you create more inclusive environments in programming? And honestly, I think the most important part is just not allowing like toxic behaviors.
Yeah. Say no. Kick them out.
I think someone mentioned that like the community standards of your community are defined by the most toxic person you let stay into it.
Yeah.
And like don't tolerate that, because allowing that is how you have this slippery slope into like a non-inclusive community. But if you can manage that, then it just sort of comes naturally.
I also think that like an understanding of people in the community, like how like what kind of pronouns people use, and we have a really diverse community where we have neurotypical diverse people, we have LGBTQ plus, we have minorities. People all come from different places, and it's very important to at least know the definition of different kind of people that you're working with. Even if you don't know, don't judge them.
And that's the most basic thing, right? It's just like have an open mind, right? Like, because if you have preconceptions about certain things, then that's going to, lead you to shunning certain kinds of people. But if you have an open mind, you don't even have to learn those things ahead of time, right? Just listen when they come up.
Listen, be respectful, and follow how others want to be treated.
So I mentioned the anecdote, like one of my friends in the that I work with, like in for the Linux stuff, just DM'd me out of the blue, and he was like, "I'm so sorry, I like accidentally misgendered you when I was doing this this thing the other day," and someone told me like, "Don't worry about it." Like, come on, mistakes happen. That's like nothing.
Mistakes are okay.
Yeah,
but
he was so nice. He was like so worried.
Just remember that. Be respectful as much as you can. Apologize when you make mistakes.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. At that stage, we're getting there.
We get a question about coming out to work colleagues.
I think that's like if your working environment is positive and accepting, then it shouldn't feel like it's a big deal.
A lot of people like, like in Google, your profile has a pronouns, and that you can put information there. People know how to address you. And during the first meeting, they're just very clear on whatever identity and information they want other people to know. I think this having this freedom is very important, and but not all the companies support this freedom, so you need to be careful. But for people that you can trust, I think just telling them in a normal conversation will be okay. Most people in the industry, like in the West, are acceptive and really supportive.
Honestly, even like here's a little anecdote. I have some friends that work at a company in Japan that I know, and I'm like good friends with them. It's a very small company, right? not anything fangled or anything like that. It's very small. So one of the people that was working there, a friend of mine, came out as trans while they were doing work for them, and I actually wasn't there in person when that happened. But like I heard the story and it was just like nothing basically, right? This was like, they like I assume some questions were asked and some things were figured out, and then it was fine and nobody had any problem with it, and they call her by her new name now, and sorry, and that's pretty much it, right? Like there's no drama, no anything. I think most people are like that. I think if you don't have preconceptions or biases or like it's not difficult to just accept people for who they are, and if they tell you, just listen, and it's
I think this kind of conversation is part of a professional conversation, and it's a professional norm that people should practice to accept. And I think Google has a company training for diversity, like I have to like take a week of like diversity and inclusion training, plus like all the fire alarm training, a lot of trainings. But hey, those trainings are good. They set a rule for everyone, and if the training says it's supportive and inclusive, then everybody should act that way.
Right. So this stage, what was the turning point when you felt you became a professional in the industry?
Hey, if you ask me before joining Google, I will say I don't know. But after joining Google, I realized like I'm good at presentations and making people understand difficult concepts. Because I have streaming experience, like talking to 300 people at the same time, it's not a stressful thing. I just talk like this with a professional voice and less strange jokes, of course. Doing those presentations and being able to write code that I have confidence in, when I feel good at work consistently, I feel like, I'm a professional. And also when I can do things faster and more professional than other people, have my area of expertise, that's when I can do the job.
I think that's something that like it takes people time to realize, right? Like, especially if you have imposter syndrome and self-esteem issues and things like that, and it's easy to fall into the trap that like, you're like the newbie and you don't really do anything. But actually, once things start clicking for bigger projects, then it really should make you think. How do you stay up to date with the latest technologies and trends? That's
my group members in Telegram. They always show me the latest like AI, LLM, like every update. They're like, "Oh my god, new ideas for Waifu."
I like how you went straight into like waifus and LLMs. I think. Continue. Are you done?
No, you
Okay.
go.
I think that it's really just keep doing things and keep being open to new technologies, and the right tool for the job might change, and then you just try and learn new things. Like how I learned, Rust. I didn't really know Rust. Like, I played with it a little bit, but I didn't have any like real experience with it. But then I realized, because I do keep up with obviously like tech news and stuff. I knew about Rust. I knew what the whole point was, right, and why it existed and why it was supposed to be better than all these other things. So as long as you're open and you just learn about new things that come out, or are able to research them, then when the time comes to use that technology, you can always pick it up and learn it, right? I think that's more important than sort of trying to learn new technologies for new technology's sake. I think that tends to be more of the meme is like, front-end frameworks, right? Like there's so many of them. I think that's more of the sort of standard joke when people talk about learning new technologies. But I'm not a front-end developer, so I'm not going to comment on that.
You're like, I'm going to stay away from
I'm like, I know jQuery. I'm cool.
Who's jQuery now?
I don't know, me.
Okay. But you have to mention, like, you just sometimes, like, you can't stop yourself from looking at Reddit and hacker news. There are, like, when there's discussion forums, that's, tech channel, tech news, that's a good way to know what's trendy.
Yeah, always at least be aware of at least the names and why things exist, so that when you need them, you can actually go learn them.
Like, what's your top 3 apps for, the trendy tech?
You mean
information?
like websites?
Yeah, where do you get the most useful information and news?
So I actually started following Lobsters recently, which is like smaller hacker news and better moderated, which is actually pretty cool. And like they tend to have a lot of the same articles, so most of the same stuff. It's just a lot lower volume and easier to follow the comments and stuff. And then just Reddit. I'm not gonna say all of Reddit is good, but there are definitely some very good subreddits for some things. And what else? I mean, I guess if it's Linux stuff specifically, LWN is actually pretty nice. But that's very specific. Other than that, honestly, I'm just gonna say Mastodon. But like follow the right accounts. There are accounts that post like syndicate blog posts from certain things, like official accounts. Just build a reasonable network on Mastodon. You're gonna of like tech people that you like, and you're gonna have a feed that is that has a lot of interesting things. And people actually boost fun stuff. So I get a lot of interesting boosts on Mastodon.
Yes.
And as a standard explanation, Mastodon is it's not Mastodon, it's the Fediverse, it's the federated. It's like Twitter but like email, so you can have different servers. So you don't have to get a Mastodon account. You can get an account on any server and then follow people on other servers. Because this blows people's minds when they first see it. So I just have to explain it.
Let's go to 42. Others are repetitive.
Yeah, okay. How do you manage time between coding, learning, and other personal or work commitments?
That's a big one. Like everybody is struggling.
And everyone is different too.
Yeah. I like when we started our relationship. Like I think we both have trouble like stop cuddling each other and get work done.
Yeah.
Like right now, I'm like every day wake up and trying to push you to work. And like once you're in that state of working, you just keep going, hyper focus, and stop eating. Have to see that.
She's right.
And I have to stop you. Like you always like you have to fix something. You have to get your you have to achieve some goal before you can stop. Otherwise, you just cannot.
I'm sorry.
But I think we're getting there. I think I'm getting you to do more work.
I think it's important to like every person is different. There are different organization tools that work for different people. Some people use calendars, some people don't. Some people have fixed schedules. For me, for example, streaming was actually really good to get me to focus on getting work done because I had a fixed schedule, and so I could just like I was like twice a week I'm going to be working on stuff, and obviously that kind of broke down now because stuff is happening and I'm not even home. But I'll be going back. I'll be back. And so that was on the like getting work done side. But then you also want to set out days to relax and not do work.
That's very important. Yeah. People like underestimate how important like a good quality rest is, and they just get burned out. Like I never thought like work burnout would be so bad. Like you don't really see it a lot in school and stuff, like because you have tests maybe 4 times per semester, but work is I think more high intensity, more collaborations, definitely more time dedicated. So it's very important when you rest, you have good quality rest to compensate for all the stress from the work.
I think it's important to be very conscious that this is going to happen because especially if you're younger, you might feel like, oh, I can handle it, right? I can handle the crunch time. I can do whatever.
That was all me.
And you are going to burn out.
Yeah.
And so it's very important to recognize, like if you're working on some project, yes, we're human, we are flexible. Like we are able to say crunch for 2 weeks on something. Crunching for 2 weeks on something is probably not going to burn someone out long term, but you do need rest after that. Right? You need to take a break, a few days at least. But if you are crunching long term, if you are pushing yourself long term, if you are spending too much time on things and not getting enough sleep every day, and even if it's not like sleepless crunch time, it does wear you down. And if you don't recognize that that's happening and you don't change something to make it a healthier, work-life balance or just general sort of life balance, you are going to eventually burn out, and it's going to be, if you don't stop it, it's going to be really bad. And it can lead to even mental health problems and things like that. So you should recognize it, right? You need to keep in mind that, okay, I'm spending too much time on work, I need a break, I'm spending too much time on this, or, if you feel you are getting tired of something, if you feel like, maybe you're a bit more depressed or like it's starting to feel like you don't want to do this that much, that can be a sign that you are, on the way to burnout. And then that's when you need to take action and change up your schedule or decide that I'm, going to ban myself from doing any work on weekends, things like that. And I think that's very important is recognizing that. Because I've been through mild burnout, right? On personal pressure, things like that. And I don't want to burn out to the point where I just give up working on some of these things. And yeah, you have to be very conscious. If you just brush it away and say it's just a little more, it's, I have to do this, then you're going to a bad place.
It's eventually going to come back to you in a way worse form. I think I burned myself really bad on the first work. I was left pretty much mentally in a horrible place. I couldn't code for the next 5-6 months. I even once had a panic attack because I was trying to open a computer. I couldn't open a computer for months because of the burnout. I think it has something to do with me not really enjoy the code I was doing. And one really important tip is for you to set expectation at work when you're collaborating with people or at school or in your lab. Tell them 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. That's when I stop working. 2 p.m., 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. That's my lunch time. Nobody should schedule any meeting during that time. And after 6 is my quiet hours. Don't expect me to be there when you ping me.
You can put those things in your calendar. If you're literally a company, you have a shared calendar. Block out your lunchtime.
Yes,
because
people are going to try to invite you.
Yes.
Those people across the group, they're gonna just hunt you down and make you do more work that's not yours. So block the lunchtime. Have a peaceful lunch every day. Come on, you need that. And what's the quiet hours after 6? No contact on the weekend unless we have previously scheduled. Especially I've seen this more frequently with family with kids. Kid is a big responsibility, and you want to have quality time when they are young and also when they are old. So we block all the time. Here is my family bonding time. Here is my meditation time. I need to pick up my kids. So don't schedule a meeting on that time. I think setting up that expectation and letting everybody know is super important, and it's gonna help you. If you don't have a boundary and people just giving you all the shitty work, you're gonna burn out and maybe stop coding.
And also, don't be afraid to say no. That's also very important. If you are in a bad place right now and you can't deal with some work or personal or whatever, just do that. I literally told Alyssa that earlier this week.
You sure you should share?
I'm not gonna say what. I'm just gonna say something happened.
Okay.
Something happened and I was in a really bad mood, and Alyssa was sharing some stuff about the driver, and I'm just sorry, I really can't talk about this right now. Until this is resolved, I'm not capable of having this conversation.
I think that's very important, saying no and setting boundaries. And it's not No, but it's like let's schedule it later at this time, so people know when to reach back to you. That's super important, and don't ever ignore the signs of your tiredness, especially. Oh God, all the programmers, like, they will eventually experience other heart problems, back problems. My dad had to do a surgery that take out her backbone, and he was disabled for 2 months, like, because he's a programmer in CISO day. Obesity, like liver problems, mental health problems. If you're a programmer, you're likely to get them, and you need to take care of yourself. Get a good chair, and
Get a good chair. It's so important.
communicate with your with people you trust. To me, I need to communicate to my manager if I have a downtime emotionally. Like, I had to take some like FMLAs for handling urgent stuff. And if you're in a good company, your coworkers should have a good understanding of what mental health programs are, because it's so common in a high stress workplace like coding. And when you tell them, their reaction should be understanding and acceptive. If it's anything other than that, if they're belittling you for that, I don't think it's a right environment for you to be in. It's a wrong company to be in. And your boss, knowing that if you are, under the weather, you are not as efficient, he shouldn't like reprimand you.
Yeah.
They should ask what happened. Is anything happening? You have family? Do you need a break? They're supposed to be caring people. If you're not like that, there's something wrong with them. So that's the standard. I love my boss.
What about this one? What's the most important project or contribution you've made as a programmer?
Huh? Oh God, I didn't know that question was on this. What can I say? I did do something in Google, yeah, and I got some peer bonus.
Nice.
Not just like a project bonus, I got a lot.
That's really cool.
My boss was really proud.
Really cool.
I a backend Java project. We built from scratch, and I implemented like some services in there. I forgot DFS, and I have to design the file system thing to do the DFS, but I hate recursion. Okay. First year at Google, I was trying to prove myself. I like stay every day in the office until like 9, 10 p.m. They have unlimited snacks and dinner and everything, right? And I like Google Office. In fact, today our background feels like a Google cafeteria, isn't it? Like, they like this wooden design, our background. Wooden design and like little cafeteria. You can just grab snack anytime. So I did spend a lot of time on that, and I'm never writing Java again. I quit the group as quickly as possible after I completed that.
Oh no. I think I already covered this and this and mostly that. Oh, this is interesting. What are the signs that you're ready to mentor others in coding?
Oh, that question is mentor others? I think I'm better at mentoring I'm better at mentoring like how to get a job, how to perform well in interviews, and just generic work otherwise. Mentor others in coding. Like, I do have like more junior members joining new grads or interns. Like, I give them projects, I outline things, and I encourage them to ask questions, if you call that mentoring. But code, I have never helped someone become efficient at a certain language. The most I could do is tell them what I know and help them figure things out. I think that's usually how it goes. Like, we don't usually mentor someone as a teacher to make sure you know something.
Yeah, I think it's more
Active learning from them.
yeah, like there's there are cases for mentoring, but I think most people don't really do mentoring, like full-blown mentoring. It's more like knowing that you're ready to take questions from people. And that like you will be able to answer them, which doesn't mean answering the question, but it can be answering with a redirect, right? To like, this is the person or this is the website you should be looking at. But I think that's what you see, right? Like most people that like I would look up to when asking, about something is like, I know this person has a lot of experience in this particular thing, and like they have this stuff in their head, and like this is the right person to ask about this, right? So I think it generally just comes with experience, especially if you spend like a lot of time in any particular field or task. I think that's the most important thing, right? Like some people just jump around a lot, and that's fine. That's totally fine. Like it's if you're happy doing that, that's totally okay. But you're probably not going to mentor anyone on anything if you are yourself jumping around a lot of technologies in a lot of fields, right? Because you're not going to have a deep knowledge of any particular one of them, which is fine. It just means you're not the right person to answer that question.
Even if you're like a generalist, even if like you don't know deep enough about technology, your experience still you can still mentor someone.
You need to find the common point between those things, right? For example, you might be working on a lot of projects, but if all the projects are related to backend development, then you probably have some pretty good concepts on that, right? I think most people have something like that, like some topic that unites a lot of what they've done, and then they can be good mentors about that topic. But yeah, I think if you genuinely just jump around a lot of random things, then it's probably, hard to mentor someone.
But even if you jump around, you like your skill of solving a problem, your insight.
Yes, there's gonna be some things. Yes,
there's something like a lot of about coding is about that kind of experience, that kind of attitude and
skills,
approach.
like Googling skills and things like that, right? Yeah, that's always something that you can. There's always gonna be things like that. Yeah,
and I think those soft skills are actually sometimes
very
more
important.
important.
Yes. And I think the last one there is interesting. How do you approach learning new languages or frameworks quickly?
How do you approach learning new language or frameworks quickly? Official website. I think they always have the best guide on the official documentation. And just follow them. And they usually have like two types. One type is like follow a project. The other type is learning more skills. Like what I did with Rust was just going through official tutorials and trying it out myself. And I have a good grasp of it.
I think like part of it is also just experience and sort of confidence, right? Like once you have more confidence, for example, once you know, say 3 or 4 programming languages, then learning the 5th is not learning a new programming language. It's just learning what is special about the 5th programming language that you don't already know, right? So like when I learned Rust, obviously no one had to teach me about like for loops and iterators and while loops. And yes, Rust has an interesting loop construct, but it's immediately obvious how it works when you see it, right? Those things are trivial. It's the interesting things are like lifetimes, some details about the type system, like type constraints,
unsafe,
and traits. No, unsafe is actually really easy. Unsafe is literally just like you can do more things now. The stuff you do in unsafe is just like C. So there's like that's not. There's some conceptual things about how you use unsafe, but you kind of figured it out. But no, the deep stuff about learning Rust is the type system, lifetimes, and traits, and sort of how you use them and how you approach problems in Rust. So that's what I learned, right? I didn't learn Rust from scratch. I actually didn't follow the Rust tutorial. I looked up some things, right? And then I just jumped, right? It's like the chapter on the stuff I don't know about. It's like this one, right? I'm not going to learn about ifs and whiles in Rust.
Yeah, me neither.
Right? Yeah. So that's usually how it works, I think, with especially with new languages. But the first time, right? If you know Python, and then you're going to learn C, you're probably going to have to learn some deeper systems programming concepts that you had no exposure to in Python because they just don't come up. And so, but then those concepts are going to be useful with any systems language like Rust. Zig, or I don't know Zig, by the way. I just heard the name a lot. Or obviously C++, and also if you ever want to drop down to assembly language. So it's when you are first learning new technologies and new languages, if it's something you are not familiar with in general and it's very different from what you're familiar with, read the official docs, follow it step by step, and search for like courses or guides or information on any concepts that are new to you. And then once you have a few languages under your belt, you will realize that it's a lot easier to pick something else up because you only have to learn the new things.
One thing that didn't sponsor me but I use a lot is Educative. Educative.io. I sometimes stream it. I don't know if I'm allowed to stream it. It usually have like the latest frameworks and language, and they have like this DevOps pass, this machine learning engineer pass. It's like someone has prepared the food for you, so the knowledge is very concise, and their playgrounds. And they're not videos; they're just text, so you can just skim through it. I found it really effective, like as a an engineer at work wanting to learn certain knowledge, because it's usually written by someone that's also a senior engineer or a tech lead. Yeah, I found that particularly useful. Maybe I should ask for sponsorship and stream them.
Yeah. You just reminded me that I had to refresh myself about dynamically sized types in Rust just 2 days ago. Because I was trying to do something. I made a change. It's already pushed to production. I made a change to the GPU driver, and I was trying to use work use or something. And I don't forget the details, but basically, yes, I looked up a Rust thing, again, and actually thought I was gonna solve a problem with that, and then realized I wasn't, and realized it wouldn't work. But I had already learned that and learned of that problem and then forgotten about it, and then had to remind myself and go through the motions of why doesn't this work? So that's also normal, right? There are going to be parts of languages and frameworks and concepts that you run into, and it's really deep, and you learn it once to solve or learn that you can't solve a particular problem this way, and then it doesn't come up, and then months later you run into the same thing and you have to redo go through the motions again because you forgot. Then that's also completely normal. So yeah. All right, I think we're almost done. Let's wrap this up and then look at the marshmallows.
We have 2. Yeah. Hey, if you want some marshmallow, here's the perfect chance. We're gonna answer as many as possible. So soon as a marshmallow at cyan.yt/QA. Anything.
So here's the second to last question. What's one piece of advice you would give to someone starting their coding journey today?
I say find a group of friends and then do it together. The earlier you do this, the better connection and friendship you'll have, and it's going to make your life really amazing. Just imagine 2 people peer programming to each other, and one is a designer, one is a web developer, one is an AI engineer. You can basically start like a startup. I think having cool programming friends at your hand, visiting your home, is the coolest thing ever.
I think that's really important. Yeah.
So what's your advice?
What's my advice? That's really hard. It's harder that I do a lot of niche stuff, and then I don't know how in contact
How would
with
you
the real
give
world.
me one single advice for me to be a better programmer?
Okay, it's find things you are interested in doing. Not technologies, find problems you want to solve. Give yourself projects that you want to see solved. That it's not just practice, it's not just, an exercise. This is going to help my life.
Actually want to do
Yes.
it. I have so many of those ideas. I just note them down, but never find the time to do it. But I want to do it. The one thing I want to do now is the AI chatbot system. I have fantasized of having an AI someone.
Well, not enough for you.
I'm planning to make you into an AI someone, just in case you want to leave. And the other thing, I hired someone writing a game for me, so I'm the project lead, and then
Yeah.
she is doing the coding. it's amazing. Like it can grow. Like she wrote code to grow flowers, and we're gonna fish some emoji.
Aww.
I planned out my dream game. Remember, like I wrote a dog.
I know.
Yeah, yeah. Like I don't write a lot of code, but I think I know how like visual novel works. Not so much game engine, but web stuff, AI stuff. I have built things before, so like I know I can do it. It's just I need to invest on some GPU. Last question.
What legacy do you hope to leave in the world of programming?
Oh God, I hope we could be the best VTuber tech Yuli couple.
I think we already are.
I don't know, maybe you're better ones.
That was very specific.
Like just share knowledge like this. We're not here to brag or anything. I personally enjoy this conversation with you because I discovered something I never discovered before, and you gave me a nice piece of advice to discover something that I like. I feel very honored to hear your advice from you're a really cool person, right? And now everybody else get to have this for free. Maybe we can help someone that's struggling a little with the industry, and they hear, hey, there are other solutions how we see things. So I just want to share the happiness and the knowledge in the journey.
I think that's kind of the same for both of us. Is we want to share the happiness and the positivity and the and our experience, and help other people find what they want to do and the path that they want to be on. I think that's more important than like sort of technical achievements. Like I can be like, yeah, I wrote the first sort of quote real serious driver in Rust for Linux or whatever, but it's not even upstream yet. So
I wish I could understand what you do.
But no, I think it's connections with people and bringing smiles to people.
I think programmers are the ones making dreams come true. They're dreamers and they should be friends. We have some nice chat messages.
Yeah, we have a couple of things. What if the problem it solves is so far out there that it requires serious familiarity with several entire topics? How would you break that down? You just break it down like pretty much any problem can be broken down, right? So you just have to approach it piece by piece.
Into executable steps.
Yes.
Like, what I found most important is to like break it down to the point where I can just follow this and then put a check mark on it. Like exactly open this file and parse it in certain ways so that like define an input output so you can just execute yourself like a machine.
Yeah. Like there's always going to be some simplification of the problem, right? You could like take one piece and solve one piece first, or or make an outline of everything and then decide, well, this particular subset is can be tackled individually. I think if you have a high level problem that requires a lot of knowledge to approach, to decide how to approach, that's when you ask someone with more experience with that, right? Like if you don't have the experience to design a solution across a complex problem that has many sub-problems, you can try trial and error, and that's always fine. But it's all that's the part where it's very useful to have the courage to ask someone more familiar with the topic to guide you. And then once you have an outline of what you're supposed to do, then that gives you the blueprint for doing individual pieces and breaking it down yourself.
I think one more important thing about those like steps is that you ask the right questions for it, like multiple questions, and the thought process of asking the question is actually more important than getting the answer. Like asking the right question so you know what you need from who.
Yes, that's the most important thing. Yes.
All right, you want to move to marshmallows?
All right, marshmallows. I need
Anyone still working on marshmallow? Give us a heads up on the chat so we don't miss you. If you send a marshmallow later, we can reply on the Twitter.
Let me see if I can download some
I still want to write our own marshmallow, baby. Just have a stream. We do this together. like this marshmallow is like, why? It's hard to download. It's not integrated.
We have a bunch of recent ones actually.
Let's just do the tag related.
I think they start here.
Okay, not this one.
Not this one. Okay, so this one's relevant.
Oh, homeland. Yes. One of the best qualities of a dateable programmer.
Let me see if I can grab these files. Yeah, this should work.
Educated just send me the 3 courses that will be interesting.
This should be
Gokin the modern system design interview. Gokin the coding interview patterns in Python. Gokin the low-level design interview using OOD principles. Happy learning, team educative.
That I guess that one.
Reaching out and asking is hard. I guess you need to write down like what exactly you want to send them as a greeting message plus the problem you're working on. Like, I guess at our stage, I found people just pinging us and say hi a little confusing. Like when people ping us for something, like not just friendly but actually for something, I expect them to, show the question right away so I can have time to organize myself and think about it. You just need to build up the courage, find the contact information, and then shoot that message. If you really need help, sometimes I do use ChatGPT to get some feedback on how my questions are, if it's polite or something. I guess I could do it myself anyways, but I just feel more secure if some other person look at it. So if you have another person who can look at what you send to other person, seeing if it's okay, that might help you with sending more messages. I hated reaching out to people.
Okay,
but we love it when we receive marshmallows and questions.
Okay, this is gonna be the other scene.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, we're gonna use this scene.
Oh, we're sharing a chair? That's okay.
Yeah, we're somehow sharing a chair.
Marshmallows.
Alright, marshmallows. You wanna go or do you?
You go.
Okay. Hi, Cyan and Lina. May I ask, when you started to code, did you ever build a home lab server? If you have, what specification do you begin with, and what system do you apply first on that lab?
I don't know. I date people with home labs, but I don't know. I don't have one yet.
Depends on what you call a home lab. I think so, when some people think of a home lab, they think of actually getting rack mount servers and professional equipment like that, and putting in a rack. I think that's useful if you aim to actually work in a data center, or if you just find it fun. But I never really had that kind of home lab. It's more I just build whatever I need for what I'm trying to do at home. So I always had, for a very long time actually, I've had a home server, but it was just a PC, whatever PC made sense and whatever specs made sense for what I was trying to do. And it's been migrated, and there's a Mac Mini now instead. But there, some of what I have at home probably qualifies as a home lab for some people, because it's been growing and becoming more complicated.
And it's really hot.
But I didn't set out to build a server or an experiments environment for testing system administration stuff or to learn any technologies. It was just a home server that's been growing in scope. So yeah, if you are specifically interested in cluster computing or in data center stuff, look at whatever technologies you are interested in. You can find cheap servers and cheap switches and secondhand stuff on eBay, or look for local sources. But I don't have any super specific advice there. And if you just want to have, a home server that you can put stuff on that doesn't have to be a particular spec, then yeah, any computer will work for that. A lot of people use Raspberry Pis for simple things, and that can be, more than enough. You can also use Raspberry Pis to do experiments with clustering stuff, because you can buy a lot of them for really cheap. So yeah, it depends on what you're trying to do. But yeah, in my case, I've had a home server for very long, but if what I have now is a home lab, it just sort of grew over time. It never was a goal to have a home lab.
Is there a karaoke system on that too?
No, that doesn't count.
Okay.
Okay, fine. That's just a random thing.
Okay.
Are you saying my audio video rack is a home lab? Come on, that's just a home theater. It's not the same.
Okay. Come in. That's fine.
Okay, question for both of you, and I'm sorry if something like this was answered already. I'm familiar with the science of computers, and they physically work. But the most I've done is building stuff from source in very simple C++ and Java. I want to learn programming comp sci better for work, hobbies, and to use RE beyond existing tools. Any advice or a good place to start? That is a lot of stuff.
Good question.
Yeah, so let's see. First, you answer about programming and comp sci.
Programming and the comp sci, it really depends on the learning scale. Like, if you just simple introduction to a language, there are many good courses, like good YouTube videos, good Coursera's, good educative, or even just the official guide. You do want to master one language really well to know the common things on languages. I would recommend Python and try different ways of using Python, like for web, for AI, for cloud, for everything. That's one way to expand and just take a bigger look at all the programming stuff.
I think it's a little ambiguous exactly where what angle you have, but since you mentioned reverse engineering, and as you mentioned the science of computers, if you're interested in the low-level side of things, I think the best place to start is 8-bit computers and microcontrollers. Because if you want to go through that angle of learning how programs work and how they interface with the computer physically, and then that's going to give you the basics, and it's going to give you the mental model of how all that works, and then you can use that to learn the kind of stuff I do with reverse engineering. So I'm not sure from the question which angle you're interested in, but those are the two options, right? If you want to focus on programming from the high level, then Python is definitely a very good way to go, and just to sort of brush up on the skills and then decide where you want to go next. And if you are specifically interested in reverse engineering and low-level stuff, then yeah, definitely look at Arduinos and things like that, and write code for them. But then I think I've mentioned this a few times when people ask this question, don't use the libraries. Use the library in the beginning to see that it works, and then look at the code for the library or look at the documentation for the chip and actually write the raw code that would do the same thing as the library, and then that's how you kind of learn what the concepts are. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Multiple questions here. How do you find projects that you are interested to work on? How do you start? Do you start your own project first and find this is what people are interested in, or is it vice versa? I think both approaches are important. Sometimes I just work on a project that I personally am interested in, and sometimes I work on a project that I know other people are interested in, but you always need to be interested in it yourself. It's just that sometimes the scope is it's just a personal thing that nobody else cares about or that very few people care about, and sometimes the scope is larger than that. So you can either start your own projects, or you can work, contribute to someone else's existing project.
I'm not an expert on this, but I feel like starting with simple contributions to open source will make you learn the culture, make you learn the customs, so it's easier for you to start your project, and you build a network of friends with other open source. So
I think there's no set order, right? I think most people probably will want to learn like the basics of programming by having their own little projects first. And then when you start feeling like you want to collaborate with other people, then you can look into open source contributions to learn how that community works. And then those two together can give you the tools so that in the future, maybe one day you can start your own open source project that is actually a big thing with a lot of contributors.
I feel like for beginner projects, it's often start with individual. You have to understand the core concept first, how to build a program from scratch yourself, even if it's simple. When you reach certain point, you know how things function. That's when you start to collaborate, and collaboration will actually speed up your process. If you are missing like core part of the knowledge, the collaboration will actually be really tough and not actually bad for your development.
Yeah, and that's one thing to realize too, that like, this might be a little harsh, but like random open source maintainers are not your teacher, right? So some people are open to mentoring and very carefully walking you through things and helping you with everything. But other people just don't have the time or the ability to really do that. And
some people are jerks. A lot of.
Some people are jerks and some people are just, direct. And there's kind of a difference, right? Like it is okay to say like, I cannot spend my time on you right now because some people just don't have the time. Then people are jerks about it, but just saying no is not being a jerk, right? And so you have to realize that, right? That like, depending on what project you're contributing and what the people running are doing and sort of what their own personal interests are and how good they are at teaching and whether they're interested in teaching, you might run into someone that is actually going to walk you through and hold your hand through something, or you might not. And if you don't, then that can be really discouraging, but you should, then you should just work on things yourself or actually find projects, because they do, like some open source projects specifically mention that they will mentor people, right? Or ask around in the community, like maybe you can ask in a Discord or a subreddit or something, and someone will say, oh, this person at this project is very happy to like mentor you and teach. And I think that's pretty important.
I think knowing people that are around your own skill level, that's the best learning experience, because like you can teach each other. Like teaching is the best way to show that you master something and just make it very intuitive for you. And also like you're at the same skill level, so the expectation will be comfortable. Like yes, you want to know a few people that can mentor you, but have someone on your skill level. For many people, that's when you have the best balance.
Yep. Okay. How do I start into the open source projects? I pretty much already just covered that, right? But more specifically, they're asking, they're worried about how to properly format Git commits, writing pull requests, code quality formatting. Okay, that's very specific to specific projects.
Yeah, we should cover it downstream.
Yeah, we should. But in general, when it comes to these things, the broad answer is just do what other people are doing, right? Like read through some commits. It'll usually be pretty obvious from the commit message what the format is supposed to be like. If there exists documentation about this, follow it. Some projects like the Linux kernel can be very anal about these things. But for most open source projects, most of the time, if you just do roughly the same thing as everyone else, they'll either be okay with it or just tell you to fix some small things and you're done. Most projects that care about code quality these days, code formatting specifically, will have a bot on GitHub that'll tell you if it's formatted wrong. Or some will just tell you, run the formatter. Thankfully, it is the exception that it's something like Linux kernel where like humans care about formatting and then you don't really know what's good. I would not suggest starting with projects like the Linux kernel first, because they are, for better or worse, kind of hostile to first-time contributors. But thankfully, that's not, the typical thing these days. Thankfully, these days, if you find a random GitHub project, they will either not be very, worried about these details, or they will just have a bot that'll just do all the work for you and tell you what you need to fix. And then you can just go. So 2.1, how did you get to start in the working in open source, and what advice would you give to future first-time contributors? I think that's basically the same thing. Is like find a project that at least has some reputation of being friendly, and you can look through the existing discussions and see sort of what the vibe is, and then just go for it. Try to do things as this kind of goes for everything in life, right? It's like try to act like the people around you. Just try to follow the existing rough format and commit format and all that, and you'll be fine. So. All right, next one.
Nice.
Hey, Cyan, are you getting into GPU stuff too?
Yeah?
I think I'll drag her into it eventually.
Buy me GPUs.
No, not like that!
I want GPUs, please. I want to make AI girlfriend. Give me GPUs.
Oh no. I graduated over COVID, so I didn't get a chance to re-experiment much. I still don't really know what I want to get into. Since I have units in cyber, hacking, just databases. Any advice, tips on finding what I want to go into? Try things. Just read. Sometimes it's good to just read news websites and see if any particular subject interests you over time. It can take some time to find something. Sometimes it's good to actually try some challenges. Sometimes, even just reading Wikipedia might give you ideas. It's pretty much up to you. You have to just see if you can find something that interests you.
I think I relate to this because when COVID happened, I was in school, and now and that changed everything. I never had to attend an interview by person. I didn't even went to office for my first job. Everything was remote, and it's really hard to connect with people when it's remote. You don't connect with they're just like random people on the internet just working with you, and you see them on stand up with camera close. So I understand the struggle. You don't connect with people, and the opportunities just don't seem so obvious. It was not like that before, right? If you work in an office pre-COVID, you have people to interact with, go to lunch together, build bonds by small talks. So it's something that you can get now, by going to offline and just meeting people. I think face-to-face connection is really important in workspace and for your coding development, even outside of work.
And I think that's also an interesting thing. If you're really having trouble finding something that interests you, find a random community of people that sound, as people interesting to you, and then you might find yourself getting dragged into projects that become interesting to you.
So this.
I have a full-time job and 3 hours of travel a day, so I don't have a lot of time to study. Do you have any recommendations for intensive study? 2-ish hours free a day.
Intense? Okay. I want to give another angle. 3 hours of travel, I think it's a great time for a podcast. Or
audiobooks,
podcasts, learning a new language, programming language or real language, soft skills. I learned English by middle school, just going on bus, just listening. Using that travel time, it's possible that it could be something good. Although I don't really recommend, if you have the chance, don't have commute that long, because that's your life quality. That's
you're losing a large percentage
a
of
quarter
your life.
of your awake time. So I really hope if there's a chance, we consider how you could reduce that commute time. Intensive 2-hour study. We could recommend a lot of things. The thing is, how do you keep it up? Make it interesting, and you find it something you truly enjoy. And since you already have a full-time job and 3-hour commute, I guess you don't have a lot of energy to really have say a year-long intensive study. I would actually recommend something that makes you feel comfortable and relax. I don't know, what would you recommend?
Yeah, it's hard. I think the commute time is really important. If you can make use of those 3 hours, you are making use of otherwise wasted time. So that's really important. But yeah, for 2 hours a day, I personally have a hard time relating to that because I tend to like hyper focus for much longer periods of time. But I mean, I think almost anything can be broken down into 2-hour periods, so that's not really a problem as long as it works with your own, the way your brain works. But the question is more, it's like find something that interests you that will keep your attention for those 2 hours, and then it'll just sort of work out.
I personally prefer books because I think reading text is easier than following lectures. But if you have trouble, you just want like not 100% concentrated learning, maybe like 2 lecture video from MIT Open Class or like Stanford, it might help you. And since you wanted to do it like every day, break it up to different subjects. Like you may see Lina working on code every day and talking about Linux, but like her knowledge comes from all kinds of different studies. Like she's learning math, she's learning music, she's learning psychology, everything, and it's gonna benefit you. So try different things and make it interesting. Like I think it's very important to keep up the having a good healthy schedule, healthy mindset.
Any tips you can give to anyone wanting to get into coding? I think we pretty much covered that.
This whole street. Come on in.
Do you folks use LLMs like Chat? Oh, this is gonna be controversial.
Oh God, I'm gonna cancel.
Let's see. So, they say, I mainly use ChatGPT for shell commands and to throw some C++ code snippets to ask about syntax. When it comes to writing code for a project, I find myself being too lazy to type out all the context required to specify what I want and just write the code myself. Yeah, I think that pretty much tracks. What do you think?
We are so different. We have so many arguments over LLM and AI. I know people that just write the entire application by asking LLM to do it. And I know people that depend on LLM for writing code. I know people with zero experience with coding start coding with LLM, and it's kind of effective. I think for us, like with a proper CS study, I don't mind leveraging as much as possible to AI. Like even in Google, you have autocompletes, like not that kind of like AI complete code that learns from Google's like code base and tell you, hey, this is the best practice of how Google learns has been writing this. I think AI assisted coding is the future, and people that don't necessarily have all the education can write complete functional code. You don't like that?
I think you mentioned shell commands, and I think that's actually kind of legit. Like, I don't have experience with that because obviously I've been doing this for much longer than ChatGPT has existed. So I don't really have a need to I don't think I've learned a shell tool that was deep since ChatGPT existed. I never had to learn a new, brand new quirky thing that I didn't already kind of know. So it doesn't really come up for me. But I think if you're, for example, need something like, an FFmpeg command line to convert this format to this other format with these settings, or something like that. Like there are certain shell tools that are kind of complex, and deriving all those settings from the documentation is definitely going to take longer than asking an LLM. And if an LLM is giving you the right answer, I think that works. And it's kind of, I feel like LLMs are probably pretty good at that because they're basically digesting lots of examples and like context from the internet.
But they do make mistakes, and the important thing is you can tell it's making mistakes because it's not going to tell you that it's making mistakes.
You always need to check the output, and for things like the example I mentioned of video encoding, you might end up with a less than optimal quality setting, and you don't know. So. But it can at the very least be a good starting point that you can give you something that works, and then you look up in the documentation what it's doing and then decide if it's doing the right thing. Sometimes it's obvious, right? Like sometimes it's like, give me a command to crop a certain part of an image with image magic, and if it works, it's obviously going to do the right thing, right? So I think it's good for that. But it's basically speeding up Googling things. And that only works when it actually gets the right answer, because it's not as accurate as Googling things. As far as using LLMs for coding, though, I mean, I use identifier autocomplete. I use that all the time, right? But that's just like the dumbest autocomplete, like in my editor, and you know, like language servers and things like that. We've had that for ages, right? That's good. You should use editors with tools that help you. But as far as like AI, it's, you know, most of the time I'm not writing code that someone else has written, or that you know, an AI would know how to write.
That's yours. That's you though. Like low level programming that nobody has solved the problem.
I mean, it can help you. Like if you ask how to do something in Python, it's probably going to give you the right answer, right? And that can help you if you're just getting started learning Python. But on the other hand, if you do that, you're probably absorbing the knowledge less than if you figured it out yourself.
That is true, but absorbing faster, and maybe even find the more optimal practice. You continue. I'm sorry.
It's I don't know. I don't think, at least certainly not LLMs, are going to replace coders anytime soon. I call them fancy autocomplete, because effectively that's kind of what they're doing.
That's essentially what LLMs are.
Yeah, they have, you know, some ability to generalize from the input data, but it's not. They're not thinking, right? They are just sort of extrapolating. I see it as extrapolating, right? I see it as like, you can think of it as like a matrix, and then there's multiple dimensions of inputs, and then the LLM has seen the output for some of the cells in the matrix, and it's going to figure out what makes sense for the other cells in the matrix. And so if you ask it a command to, you know, do something that no one has done exactly on the internet before, but they've done different parts of it in different ways, and there's an obvious way to infer what the right command would be with that information, then the LLM is probably going to do the right thing. So they're good for that, I think. They're good shortcuts for avoiding having to read a lot of documentation when something is like popular and documented and well known, right? But as far as writing code, like, yeah, it's gonna give you examples. It's basically an example generating machine, right? For common tasks. How useful is that? If you just want to solve a common task, like if you are not a programmer and you need a program to do a simple like change of format from a file, yeah, I think it has a decent chance of doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Especially if it's, you know, it doesn't have any weird corner cases and things like that. If it works for that, go for it. But if you're actually learning how to program, yeah, you have to be very careful. Like, when is it going to save you time, and when is it sort of making it harder for you to learn things?
I don't know actually, because like when ChatGPT appeared, that's when I was like, actually at Google, and I have used it to ask it to explain code to me, because there's something that I only have like rudimentary knowledge, and it usually does a great job understanding like the code. Of course, when it has mistake, I can point it out. I think that's important. But I think for anyone that's around just a new grad, I think LLM can be a useful tool for you to save time from reaching out to people and getting you at least to a direction that is right. Also, like many people just want to write common applications. Many functions are repetitive and has been in the code base trained. So, like right now, you can have like 13-year-old writing a functional e-commerce application and using LLM, and I think we should use it. It's just like when video wasn't the most prominent form of content. People are like, videos are bad. TikTok shorts, they say is bad, but eventually they will dominate.
I think the problem is that, like, if you try to scale up the task you're giving an LLM, like how much of the programming task it's taking, like you're saying, you know, you can build an e-commerce website that works with an LLM, but can you modify it? Can you make a change that needs to be made? If you can, and it was just a shortcut to getting a basic working scaffold, then yes, it's fine. But if you are, you know, skipping over a lot of the things you need to learn to build an e-commerce website by using an LLM, you're not going to be able to maintain it. And you're not going to be able to
That's
know
true.
that it's correct.
The
right?
thing is, whatever it generates, you need to completely understand what each line is doing
Yes.
for you to have full control of it. But if you write the code for me and it works and I can understand all the lines and debug, I'll just let it do my job.
The other thing is that honestly, like what this person first said, like, I think when you get familiar enough with programming and with a programming language, like for example, especially Python for simple tasks, because honestly, I think LLMs are probably, like, I would see them more useful for writing Python than anything else, because the kind of tasks you solve in Python are the kind of tasks an LLM is likely to be like self-contained and useful for. But I think that also if you are experienced enough with Python, you might find that the time it takes to write a prompt to the LLM that will give you the right answer is about the same as the time it takes to just write the code.
That's true. Like for people like you, I don't think LLM is going to be that useful to you because you're more knowledgeable. But for most people that are not as good as LLM, it could be, a step.
Yeah. Okay.
Heated argument.
Do employers prioritize degrees or your portfolio, what you can show them, what you can do? We kind of covered some of that, but
I think it's very personal.
Yeah.
Like if you're in
depends on which employer.
You're in every school, top, 4.0 GPA, everything perfect. Of course, people want you. But I also heard, like, for companies like Google, they have limited headcount for each school. So even if CMU have all the good students, you only have that much headcount. So some strategies go to a less prestige school to have less competition. It's weird. So you can have more chance of getting in. Everyone is different, and some people are just looking for people that can do things. Some people are looking for people with a good resume, good education. They think that's kind of person they want. I think having a good degree and GPA is definitely going to land you more opportunities. But people without that has a good portfolio should not be disencouraged to apply for big companies or dream companies. Because you can also stand out. You just need to stand out in one way or another. Or be really lucky. What if the boss is my girlfriend's father?
How do you network?
How do I network?
Yes.
VTubing? Look at who I have. I have got network in my house now. But for real, social events, go to the, if you have a cafeteria event with a company, go to that. I have went to escape home. I have went kayaking with my coworkers. You need to bond and Discord, working with open source people, going to the conferences. How do you network?
I think for you covered most of the real world part of it. I think for open source, a lot of it is just jump in and do stuff. Because if you start doing useful things, people are going to talk to you, and then you're going to end up in people's DMs just talking about the open source project, and then you might become friends and talk about other things. That's it's a little daunting because it's easier if you have experience and it's sort of people say that you're being helpful pretty quickly. But you don't have to be highly experienced. I think one important thing is that join public communities before messaging people privately. So if you're interested in a project, join the whatever it is, Matrix Discord. You can ask questions there, and it should be a lot less intimidating to ask questions in a public chat, because if you ask a question in a public chat, anyone can reply to it, right? So if you send a DM to someone, then you are sort of taking that person's time, and they may or may not be sort of friends with you enough to spend time sort of giving long detailed answers and things like that. So start out in public channels, start out suggesting things or asking things or just whatever you're trying to do in that community. And then as you as you figure out who's who, as you figure out what people are interested in and what you are interested in, then you can also privately message some people. There will often also be off-topic channels and things like that where you can discuss random things that have nothing to do with the project, and that's another cool way of getting to know people. And yeah, you can make long-lasting friends that way.
But one thing I want to point out, like I found that, like private messaging in workplace actually works much easier
In
than
the workplace, yes.
open source.
Yes.
Like, of course you're gonna have times where you dig into other team's code and then you look at this committer and have no idea what he did and there's no explanation.
Yeah.
You need to DM them. You need to ask what this line of code mean, and they will answer you because they write that code and that's part of their job. Like, don't have fear DMing people in your work if it's a legit reason, especially when you are junior working cross team projects. And also, like, sometimes you need to talk to the product manager of the other team, and they are the person that knows most about the features of that team. So don't be afraid to talk to the other teams, UX people, project manager, people that they are the ones that knows the answer.
Yeah, I think DMs work better in the workplace, both because I think group chats with whole teams are either less common or not open or not easily accessible to people outside the team. So then DMs are the most direct way to get to someone that you've seen like interact with whatever you're dealing with. And also because there's an expectation, right? That if you're working for the same company, then you're supposed to collaborate and to some extent help each other and help each other achieve whatever you're trying to do for your
They're
work.
supposed to help you.
Yeah.
If they don't, they're a jerk.
Yeah. So I think that's why, like, for open source projects, usually the public channel is much more front and center. And so then you should go there first because that allows anyone interested to interact with you, right? And gives you more chances to find people that are interesting and to network. All right, last one. Does programming feel connected to your musical and artistic creativity? Is writing code more like self-expression or puzzle solving or something else to you? You're amazing, by the way. Thank you.
The answer.
I think I mentioned that before. I think the creativity is definitely connected to like high-level design, like being able to
Express.
and not just express, but like come up with a solution to a high-level problem that doesn't have an obvious solution, right? But I find that, and this is something I noticed, right? And this is part of why I'm a VTuber, which is that it's a lot more difficult to, it's really rare to sort of reach people emotionally through code. That's something that happens with music and art, right?
Yes.
And so code is a lot drier, right? And you will get people who are very, very, very deep into a subject who will see beauty in certain solutions to a problem, but they are extremely rare. And, it's something that is very special between people who are both in the varied world, right? Like, I can tell that Alyssa is passionate about some compiler stuff that I'm not. But it's very hard for me to connect emotionally over any of that, right? Even though I might or might not understand what she's talking about. But that's something that I think music and art does that is very difficult with coding. And
like you have more audience and
Yes.
it's easier to understand.
And so that's one thing I realized with VTubing is that somehow it, like, the code itself doesn't, but in doing it like this, actually makes it easier to like inspire people with programming, which is why I really like VTubing. So yeah, it is different. Though there is an intersection. There is artistic coding, and that hits both things and is 100%, right? Like, for example, there is the demo scene, which I don't remember if I told you about that.
Yeah.
There are basic people that write usually short programs that will generate some kind of video or some kind of animation, right?
Oh.
And it's about sometimes it's about competing for making it as small as possible. There are like demos in JavaScript and like tweet competitions and things like that. Or sometimes it's just making it as impressive as possible. And the only sort of principle is that it's not a video, right? It's like you're actually writing code to generate something. And that's art. That is 100% art. It's art through code.
Yeah, and I think prompt engineering is that.
It can be, yes.
I think it's a legit thing.
Okay.
Let's not talk too much into that. But I feel like another thing that's common with like programming, art, and music, we're trying to convey something. Like
Yes.
we're trying to maybe solve a problem. Like, and I found that people that have things figured out, people that have good problem solving solution, they apply a similar methodology to any field when they encounter a problem. I think this skill is universal. You know, breaking things into steps and tackling it, reaching out to people. That's not just programming. That's in creative activity and everything else too. Like, and also like my dad jokes, my programming dad jokes. Like when you figure out how something works in programs, you start to realize how other things like also work in similar ways.
Yeah.
And make comparisons of that. I think that's pretty fun and eye opening. There are more. Sorry.
There are more? Okay. I'm going to okay, I'm going to switch away and let me download things.
So was there a point in time where you might have chosen another job instead of being a coder? Have you ever thought about not being a coder at all?
Me, not really.
How are you so sure that you're gonna do coding for life?
I'm not. I mean,
Are you gonna retire anytime? Do you have a plan retirement?
I do. No, okay. I know I'm like good at this, and like I always, you know, I never thought, what if I do something else right now? But I do know that there are other things that I would rather do, or not rather do, that I would be interested in doing, you know, longer term. Especially more connected to like the artistic side. Things like I'm interested in stage lighting, for example.
What's that? Oh yeah,
Yeah.
oh, stage lighting, production.
Yes,
videos.
production stuff. I've actually done a little bit of production, right?
Yeah.
So it's like I wouldn't be switching careers now, but you know, when I get tired of coding, yeah, totally.
Oh god.
Yeah, anything related to like live music, I'm always really interested. Like I'll go to concerts, and instead of looking at the singers, I'll be looking at the lights and be like, oh, that one's doing that, or that one, oh, they did that there. I'm like, I wonder what kind of light that is. I wonder what kind of.
Just don't shoot them in my eyes, please.
No.
I'm scared of concert. They're loud and flush. So have I chosen another job instead of being a coder? I think that's part of my career change.
And I think we're actually both kind of doing that. Like, I'm not going to give up coding, but I'm also going to be. We're doing content creation, right? And I'm moving much more seriously into that with you now.
So I think I'm the same, and you know, like I know I'm not gonna be the best coder. I tried, and I have the skill. It's just that I'm not gonna be the best, and I don't particularly enjoy doing it for companies. So I figured that I like presentation, I like speech, I like knowledge, I like content creation more. So I think people should not be afraid of switching things and change. Tech field is a huge field. It doesn't need to be just coding, and everything outside tech field is even bigger. I have a lot of like people I know that stop being a programmer and become a stand-up comedian. I think people that can code also have a lot of other interests, other ways of defining themselves. So I really encourage everybody to not give that up and explore.
There, even within tech, there are like things like tech writing, right? Like you might, if you get sort of burned out of coding, you might realize that we need more documentation, and that's something that is actually a very valuable thing. And, you know, there's always things around coding.
News reporter, tech news reporter, and educators. There are many of those.
Yeah.
Like I don't think I know enough. But translators.
That too, yeah. All right, last one. I have a ton of friends online who do curse things with computers, and I'm kind of jealous of them. Do you ever get imposter syndrome?
Oh god.
We did cover that.
Yeah. Wow. I think most of my friends does it better than me. Like I'm always like I think I know my stuff. Like I know my like Google stuff what I work on. But like when they talk about like some BGP, PGB, and cryptocurrency, like AI models, I'm like, oh god. And VPN, I actually don't know how VPN works because I never had to use it.
I mean, that's a networking thing. But
I feel like, yes, I'm in ComSci and I was in Google, but people are better than me in many things.
we need to do a networking series too. We should make a list of topics. I want to teach networking.
Please. But I don't feel jealous of them. I feel they're useful to me. That should be your strategy. And you offer something useful to them. That's how human produce next generation. I'm tired, sorry.
Okay, I think it's time to end this.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Collaboration is the best.
Yes. All right.
It just couldn't find the right thing. Oh god, that's like a almost 4-hour stream. Congrats!
What?
Less than 4-hour stream. We can actually get dinner.
Yeah, I'm so hungry. I am so hungry.
Sorry,
like my stomach is like being like, eat, go eat, go eat, go eat.
Sorry, I might have not filtered something I should have. But hey, I love this stream. We should do more of this.
Yeah, we should.
Next time, maybe I should do one about like how do you get a ComSci degree before the Google one. Let's do it next Sunday. Okay. Same time. We're gonna do an ASMR of Lina reading me Linux documentation for sleep.
We haven't decided for
Whenever you want to, baby. So
she really wants the recording so she can go to sleep.
No, I can't sleep at night. I need your good ASMR. But yeah, it's a nice stream. Thank you for coming, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Send us more marshmallows. I'm gonna answer them on X and send us stream ideas. Love you all.
Thank you.
Stay happy. Bye bye.
Bye.
I'm not gonna do anything. I'm tired.
Okay.